Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty. We're going to wait for Katie to come in. And I'm taking Jill's place tonight.
Huh?
And she's going on.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
All right, we have no agenda adjustments tonight. And we'll have consideration of the minutes. 2.1, to approve the minutes of September 27th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting.
So move.
Second.
And that passes.
No.
Oh, discussion, sorry.
And then
Any discussion? No? All right, let's vote. All in favor?
you gotta,
Jill is on.
Jill going.
Oh, do we
You're
have to
gonna
do a roll call? Okay. All right. Laura?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
That passes. All right, it's time for public comment. And I'd like to open up the floor to public comment. And when you come up to the mic, please tell us who you are, what town you represent. Also, please refrain from using any students' names and staff names. Anybody out there?
Hi, Nicole Russell from Sabatis. I'll try to keep it short. I'm two meetings behind now because the public comment is first. I have comments from 2 meetings ago. First having to do with the milk versus the adult meals. I was curious as to why the milk cost was being presented to achieve revenue when the adult meal cost wasn't. When the adult meal cost can achieve revenue to pay for the milk cost. I know that's a done deal now, but these are the things that I think the community wants to hear, wants to see, the out-of-the-box thinking. I don't think that this is a bare bones budget, which was, I think, the comment made on a news station report. I think that the community is trying to tell us, you know, I feel I'm part of this too because I like to voice my opinion, not only because I am running, but I have a vested interest. You know, I have a child in pre-K who now won't get a bus tomorrow, and a son in second grade, and a graduated child. So I'm not just here because I'm trying to cause problems or stir the pot. I'm really trying to offer solutions, ideas, things that maybe the community maybe is intimidated to come up here and speak about. A year ago, I wasn't able to come up and talk in front of people. I don't public speak, and I don't like attention. So having to do that is hard enough. But I think what we're trying to say as a community is this is for the kids. We want the kids to have the education they deserve, the education they need, but we want everything to be funded fiscally, responsibly, and we want accountability. I still don't understand why we have a courier when there's so many different options out there. I work at a bank, used to have locked bags. Everybody's worried about confidential information. There's DocuSign. Why do we still need that signatures? I know I'm throwing like the kitchen sink at you, but these are the thoughts that and the things that I think everybody wants to hear, wants to see, so you can scrape where you can and not take away teachers, even if they were open positions. And I also asked in July, the public vote, what we were going to do about buses, and I was told, well, we're looking into contracts, and that I asked if the Director of Transportation had a CDL, and he didn't, and I asked if anybody else did. And nobody raised their hands, and now we have 2 posts, one from September 18th and October 4th, long after July 27th, looking for bus drivers. Why not offer to reimburse the $200 for the courses? I liked the meeting 2 weeks ago with the discussion about the buses. I was pleasantly surprised by that. I was very happy. But I still think we need more. we're just not seeing enough. We're only seeing a little bit, like just to placate us. And that's where I feel the community has had enough. Like, you give an inch, you take a mile, right? We all say that, our kids are like that, and they do that. Well, we have no more inches to give. And I just think that's where we're at. So I really hope that this next budget discussion really looks at everything and not just threatens teachers' positions or threatens people's livelihoods, but rather looks at the dollars, looks at the opportunities out there, looks at the efficiencies, and really hones in on a proper budget for all so that it gets passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi there, good evening. My name is Libby Rodrigue. I'm from Litchfield. Hopefully I'll stay. Can you hear me okay? Okay. And I am the deputy registrar in Litchfield. And we just read the notes for tonight's meeting, seeing that the budget, the public budget meeting will be on the 26th. And then you're hoping that the new budget number will go on the referendum for November 7th. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So as someone who runs the elections, and I've been involved for several years, but now in an official capacity the last 2 out of the 3 referendums, the problem that we're going to have is we won't have enough time for absentee ballots. So we've already sent out multiple, and I think each town can attest to this. We've already sent out lots of absentee ballots for the state ballot, and now we have to. It's not up for discussion. We have to send out absentee ballots to those same people that have already requested absentee ballots. If we don't get that ballot until, say, the 30th, then we have to have our selectmen sign it, all of that, right? There's a lot of steps to this. It's not going to be enough time for the absentee people to be able to vote in time. So you can see my concern for that. So my suggestion would be possibly having an emergency meeting for this budget and getting those numbers out there much sooner than the 26th. So I don't know if anybody wants to respond to that, or if you have any questions for me regarding that.
We'll discuss it. But at the 6.2, when we do budget meeting, we talk about the timeline.
Great.
Thank you. Anybody else? Right.
My name's Gary Parker. I'm the chairman of the board for the Litchfield Select Board. I think that you need to take this very seriously. It's not optional to get out absentee ballots. You don't have an option to say, well, we're going to do our best, but that's not good enough. You have to have a time frame that works for the state statute and state law. You can't just say, well, we'll get to it. That's not an option. You can't procrastinate to the point where we're put up against the wall to get this information out to the public and be able to give them their absentee ballots. The municipality doesn't make those rules or those laws. It's the state that does it. And you have to comply with what the state does, as you're well aware. So I just hope that you will take this under great consideration and put some strength and initiative into it to make it happen. Because we need to get this behind us, one way or another. You can't just keep on. We can't do this every month. It's got to come to a head sometime. And it's in your lap. You need to listen to what the people are saying to you, even though it's like one person that steps up to the mic at every one of these last 3 budget hearings of the 3 towns that you've had. You need to listen to them and because the majority of the people that have been voting are listening to them, and that's their position. So please take it under advisement to realize what's going on in the communities and how they feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Matt Early. I'm from Wales. I'll start by recommending, I hadn't even thought about the absentee ballot issue, but recommending that the board push back the next vote to allow more time to consider that a confident resolution has been found. Additional cuts to teachers, extracurricular activities, and anything that impacts our students directly is highly unlikely to pass a community vote. I would like to urge the board to, if it hasn't already, restart the consolidation committee. If we want a budget to pass, the community needs to see efforts necessary to reduce the operational budget are being considered. Consolidating, whether it be a school building or the RSU central office, could possibly solve the teacher, staff, and support shortages that we have by making movements around, shifting things around. I know that we have empty classrooms in some buildings, and they still use those portable buildings in places. I would like to applaud all of our bus drivers, not just for their efforts in the recent weeks, but going back to the start of the shortage issue. We should not be in this mess with the driver shortage. The community is aware of at least 3 opportunities for new bus drivers that fell short, and for unacceptable reasons, I guess would be the summary of that. I won't go into details, but yeah, we shouldn't be short this many bus drivers with the applicants that have either tried or haven't been able to get in contact with the office. So, just my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? Is there anyone online? Anybody? What's up? Just to tell you, we are listening to what you're telling us, and we will be talking about that too. Thank you. Petitions and communications, and we have none. And we'll move on to reports. 5.1, Superintendent's report.
Yeah, whoops, sorry. The report is in the packet. So I'm going to talk about something regarding the pre-K. And I know one of our pre-K teachers is here and aware that I'm going to speak about for this with my report. Some tough decisions have to be made, and I know this is tough around the pre-K program. And meeting with the teachers and talking about best practice for our pre-K students, the ideal would remain doing the half days because it's good for kids to come on a regular basis with routines. However, with the bus shortage, we are looking at tomorrow putting out a survey with 2 options for parents to give us feedback on, which is 1, stay the course, knowing that we're down bus drivers for the mid-run. And then the second option being going to 2 full days, which would mean a cohort going Monday and Thursday and another cohort going Tuesday and Friday. And then there are places for parents to write comments, to send other suggestions. So there's room for other suggestions. And so the pre-K teachers will be sending those out tomorrow. And then we ask for them to be back by next Wednesday to review all our data and look at that. And then we'll report back out to you on the 25th with what's said is if they select option 2, which is going the 2 full days, that would be going in place the week of October 30th. So giving as much information to parents to be thinking through, but also a lot of space for them to write their thoughts and give us feedback. So if there's something we haven't thought of.
The teachers are pivoting with this, with their top of mind, which is educating our pre-K students. Not ideal, but we have to respond in these times. If we can get fully compliments of bus drivers and we look at it later in the school year, we can do a survey again and ask parents their thoughts about whether they want to stay the course or make a change. So we are taking very seriously about that. I've had parents reach out. We're listening around, can you go back to the 2 days a week? So we want to hear from our parents. They did do a survey around parents' ability to transport. And so we have that feedback, which is, close to 70% of our parents saying it would be difficult to transport. So we are listening. I appreciate so much the pre-K teachers having to shift and really think about their programming and giving input. So we're going to do our best to support everyone involved in this difficult times. So pre-K parents will look for that survey tomorrow as we push it out. But I want to make you aware we'll come back with that on the 25th. Okay?
Sorry, I just have a couple.
Sure, go ahead. Laura.
So with the workshop day, are any of those? I see it was with the Alice training and the PBIS and bar model. Are those future? Is this going to be kind of a topic of future discussions in the administrator reports?
Yes, they can do updates when they do their reports.
Okay,
Yes.
and then I think too with like the bus situation, 70% of parents that it would be charged to transport kids. I think that if you kind of polled everyone, you would probably get a very similar response, right?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know with the pre-K thing, like what's the best, and what's the best opportunity for the kids to learn? Is it really a full day of school or is it really a half day? And the bus driver, like, is it difficult to find a bus driver to run that noontime run? And
Correct.
is that because they run a morning run and then you have to run a midday run and then they have to be back for the afternoon run? So is it that in between, like if they had a full time, is it 2-3 buses that have to run, or how many have to run at? 3?
Mhm.
So would it be something that we could find in the meantime, like janitorial or kitchen or reading, or is that like the thing that they don't have something for maybe those other 2 hours of the day to make it a full-time position?
Are you talking about the bus drivers?
Yes.
It's we have drivers that pre-K run is something that is not advantageous for what they do. So we've had drivers that have done it and have said that they're no longer able to do it. So it's putting us down for pre-K driving right now.
So are they, but I guess are they no longer able to do it because some of our drivers are retired, so they can only they
Correct.
can only work so many hours. So is that a thing, or is it that it's not really beneficial for their day to come back just for an hour of driving? So if we made that a full-time position with some in between, a couple hours in between that they're like reading with kids or their janitorial services, or I'm not really quite sure, and made it a full day, would that be a beneficial position that they would then have a full time?
We haven't received that feedback.
Okay.
Not to say that is, but that is not the feedback we're getting for why they are choosing not to do pre-K run.
They just don't like driving pre-K kids.
Well, no, I just
Okay.
think it's, well, no, I mean, I think one, it's a challenge of they start 6 in the morning and then they go till, 4:35, and they have, some people have second jobs that fit in there.
But I guess that's where I'm
Others
kind of
are
getting at.
older and didn't want that level of commitment.
Right. So if they
Um,
have a second job, could we have a second
Mm-hmm.
job for them in the district that would allow them to like do a janitor, like to do some cleaning or to do some help in the kitchen or something in between, and then they could run a pre-K run and they're not having to go to, I'm just going to say like Rusty Lantern or something, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
To
I do.
try to
I know what
have
you're saying. Yeah.
2 jobs, one outside the district and one in. Could we get a full-time position for them in the district to support that?
We have not heard that, but not to say we can't work with drivers that might talk to us about that. We have not, that's not been the response at this point. And we're working, I mean, this is 24/7 of trying to get drivers as soon as possible. We have 2 drivers that are in training right now. 2 people who want to be bus drivers. They're doing their first step in driver attainment. We have 2 other people who have CDL, and we're working with them on endorsements that are also interested in driving. And so, we're working hard that if, the 30th comes and we're fully, we want to see what parents have to say. And so we're hoping we may have pre-K drivers and won't have to move to the 2 full days. So we're working hard for that, and that's all I can say is we're just, as Jonathan stepped back this week of cold calling people. We've called contracted services that they're charging $600 a run. That's expensive. We've worked with our drivers about trying to get support on their buses. So doing everything we can, and they understand that this is putting a hardship, but they have lives too that we have to work around as well. So I think everybody's doing their best.
And sorry, just because I haven't had a pre-K for a while, do they drop off and pick up at the same time, or they drop all the kids off and then they pick all the kids the afternoon? So they drop off morning kids and then they go pick up pre-K kids.
They have
drop off, pick up at the same.
Right. Our runs are about an hour, so it's not easy to go and pick up and then drop off. So there's drivers that bring them in, and then there's a bus that brings them back.
And then just one more question, and then I'll stop. So I heard about the vans in our previous meeting, but I know that will probably be a question, is we do have some white vans and other methods of transportation. So do you mind just speaking a little bit about that, with the option of it being for the pre-K?
Right. So we talked at the finance facilities meeting around transportation, and the vans cannot be used for the stop, like regular stops, because they don't have the signs and the lights, and then because they're not buses. So they're not recommended to be used for that. They're more, if you're going to use vans, it's for a one stop or a few, going from school to school or program to program. Alternative ed, we do home to home, but that's not a large number of students that we use the vans for. So our vans are on full use right now for everything, and so it was a good question. And we also talked about pre-K, like we talked to one contracted service. They'd all have to be in their booster seats, their seat belts, and so forth like that, and they were like, I don't think we're comfortable with that. So that was a challenge, because we talked about getting 4 vans. What would that cost? And they were like, we don't even know if we have drivers for that. And that's what we're hearing from contracted service as well, is they don't have the same complement of drivers either. So, yeah. And we'll be talking some more this evening about when we go into executive session.
Katie, I just have a quick question around pre-K. I know we consolidated pre-K to be at Libby Tozier, so we're transporting students from Sabattis in Wales over to Litchfield, which I think is probably contributing to the longer bus runs. Have we thought about having one pre-K at Libby Tozier, one pre-K at SBS, to see if that might help with busing issues?
We have not.
Okay.
We have not. That's something we can discuss.
Not that I would want to change
Right.
buildings, but if that could keep kids in school 4 days a week, I would rather see that than...
Yeah, and I'm not sure, we would have to ask the drivers if that would make a difference.
Yeah. Or have we specifically advertised just for pre-K runs? Because we might pull from other districts if they knew it was just a pre-K run versus a
We did have a slide. I'm not sure it was posted
I
yet.
don't think we saw it.
Okay, so we had a slide ready, so it will definitely be posted tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. We had it ready to go.
Yeah, I just last year my youngest grandson was in pre-K at SAD 52, and they did whole days. And as the person who got him on the bus in the morning, got him off in the afternoon until his parents on school days, that was a lot better than 4 days a week, me having to pick him up at noontime or drop him off. I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I'm not saying that other parents, same situation as I am, but I thought that the whole day really worked really well. And I think I might have asked the question, I don't know, if a board meeting or maybe outside a board meeting, about had we considered doing whole days, because from my experience with SAD 52, that seemed better than the half days. But that was just my experience with my youngest grandson last year.
We did discuss that. We would have to add 2 teachers and 2 ed techs in order to do that.
2 days a week?
Well, do they, at SAT 52, they go 4 days or 2 days?
2 days.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Because we did talk about whether it would be 4 days, 2 days. Yeah.
2 days.
But to bring up best practice with 4-year-olds and maybe some 3-year-olds, a full day is a long time
Mhm.
to be in school and to learn optimally. So.
So more information to come, but thank you for your suggestions.
Just comment.
All right, we'll move on to Assistant Superintendent report.
So Laura, great question about PBIS. I'm actually going to give a handout. So you've been hearing from our principals about our positive behavior interventions and support. So our pre-K4 schools are working with the DOE. So we asked different surveys. Their surveys are not done yet. So our high school students are going to do it, and our families have an open survey till Friday. But I wanted to kind of just go over what PBIS is. For us, it's a tier 1. So really it's looking at how do we provide supports for those kind of behaviors. We're ultimately looking at maximizing our structures, tightening up our expectations and rules so there's consistency pre-K-12. We're responding to inappropriate behavior, increasing student achievement, and acknowledging appropriate behavior. So I broke this down where you can kind of see. So students are surveyed grades 3 through 12. So in our littles, I will say Tracy Ireland is our PBIS coach, which we pay out of ESSA funds, so that's federal funds, so it's not in the local budget. She is working to create a survey for our littles with like pictures and icons. So in Libby Tozier, you won't see a student's survey. Our teams, sorry?
Do you have it for the screen?
No, because it's on paper. But it will be part of the packet that we produce. So there's no student survey for Libby Tozier. Our teams, there's a school team for every school, and they have already started to review some of the staff data as well as the current family data that we have. So you kind of see. So it's a score of a 1 through 4, similar to kind of our grading system, and you will see that in each section it gives you a mean. So we're really looking at, for our staff, like the staff and connectedness, the structures for learning, our school safety and physical environment. Those are like kind of the big headers that our staff kind of talk to, and relations and parental involvement. So it breaks it down. It's very consistent K through 12 in terms of the staff. It's been really good to kind of see where our strengths are. We have a DOE consultant that works with us in the pre-K4 world, and then we have a consultant that we've been using, Dr. Jennifer Butterworth, that's we're helping with the middle school, high school, and our results are higher than they've seen for schools that are just starting this implementation. So I know we're in this budget cloud, but I will say that our results are showing that our staff are happy, our students are happy, and we are in a good space. So although we have some things that we can tweak and tighten, and you'll hear some of those things as we kind of go through those monthly meetings, or from the administrators, you'll see some of those things that they're implementing. Standard operating procedures are tightened, and it's not just about the expectations, it's about teaching and intentional teaching of them. So what our school teams are charged with is looking at some of those lower scores and then making plans of how to improve those. So it's really good data to help us, unpack all of the information that's really applying directly to this grant. We have teams that are going to different trainings on Zoom each month, and then we have an in-person one in January that helps support the teams on these specific tasks. And it's really helpful from the DOE. The DOE works at the state level. They also get resources from the New England level, as well as the national level, as well as international. So all of the resources are vetted by schools that have already started this process. For staff, in pre-K 4, there's in the peak, it has some positive supports that are shared each week for staff. And then administrators, each time bi-monthly, we share some ideas of how are we supporting our staff with those supports as well. At the coach level, I kind of oversee the coaches and work on the district level team, which has all of the schools and all of the coaches, as well as administrators, to kind of make sure we're cohesive in all our efforts, whether it's through the DOE or through the consultant. Any questions?
I just have 2 questions.
Yep.
What did 100% of staff complete it, or is there a ratio of how many completed versus not? Were they able to opt out at all, or it was a mandatory survey?
No, so it was highly suggested. It was given during certain times. Each building did it at a different time, but it's not just classroom staff. It was food service, it was custodial. So you're getting a gamut. I will say we were probably in the 90% in all the buildings.
Okay. Is there a way just to get the breakdown, because all of these numbers, is there a way just to get the breakdown of how many staff completed per school? And then is there one for, that would include like the business, the administration, like the principals and the...
They're included in the staff one.
Okay. And then...
and we can have the breakdown once like I said, I can give you the staff numbers. The family numbers are still coming in until Friday.
Okay, and then with the numbers here, on the 1 to 4 scale, what is a low number that takes priority, or is there different groups of sections that take priority over another section?
It's up to the team to kind of look at which one makes sense for them. I know, like Libby Tozier, for example, the school team noticed that one of theirs was about physical environment. My building is well maintained. Their conversation was when they took it, they were still in mold and they were still doing satellite lynches. So it's all about perspective, right, and timing of when you survey. So they didn't feel like that was, although it was their lowest, they didn't feel like that was something that they could address as the team and like the PBIS, so they were looking at some other areas. So as a team, they figure which one makes most sense to make their school plan.
And then we'll be seeing kind of correlation of improvements based off from maybe these projects that they're working. So they identified that this is an area, this was their score, and they're going to try to get to XYZ by doing XYZ.
Yep, so they're looking to improve, and then we'll give these surveys again in around April time, and so then you'll get those results and you can kind of see if we grow.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did parents if they had a child at Libby Tozier, did they do the survey for Libby Tozier, and then they had to do it if they had a high school kid?
Yep, so they were instructed to do one for every building that they had a child in.
I have just one more thing. I was very disappointed to see the paper come home. It was shoved in their backpack the day before, and it was like the opt-out notice. You had to send it in to opt-out, and it was like September 22nd on it, and there was like October 2nd on it for the kids one. So I was pretty disappointed that it was so quick to turn it around, and that could be my kid's fault for not bringing it home in time, but they had a sub, and he's normally pretty good, and I was like, oh, it was just kind of concerning that maybe we didn't have enough time.
They had over a week to do the opt-out, and it was sent out to parents in their normal way that they get communicated. So in some grade levels, we did a big SWIFT, kind of all call. So everyone had at least 1 week to opt out if they so chose. We had plenty, so I know we did get some.
Mm-hmm.
And then the information either went out through Seesaw or Google Classroom or whatever the particular building likes to communicate with their families. But we did try to give at least a week's notice. And then we also have some parents in our handbooks that opt out of all surveys, so they didn't need to fill out the form.
I don't know that I really think that was communicated completely in its entirety, but thank you.
All right, we'll move on to Administrators reports, 5.3. Marco, you're up first.
Switch the order.
Oh.
Get my bearings here. All right. Let's see. Is this on? Yes, it is. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for a few moments of your time to share the most recent happenings at Oak Hill High School. Skip it away. There we go. So let's see. Last week was homecoming, and what an exceptional experience it was. We had dress-up days, spirit boards, and an amazing assembly. We also, Robbie, not for the first time, had a bonfire with food and drinks for kids, which were organized by boosters and donated by area businesses. And Robbie, just so you know, we did go back through the archives and found all the photos there. They were, Brian and I took a look at them, right, Brian? It was a good time.
I was in some of them.
Well, they were black and white and kind of grainy, so we weren't really sure. Was that Robbie? Is it not Robbie? Like, what's going on there? But it was great. It was nice to see that. And this event, the bonfire itself, even though it's new to us, it went really well. And huge thanks to Brian and the boosters for putting it together. Brian, obviously very much into exercise and such, got quite the workout throwing pallets on top of that thing. It was pretty impressive to watch, but everybody had a really good time. We capped it all off with a great dance, which included 250 students, which was pretty incredible, enjoying the evening together. And I've mentioned this before, and will again tonight. The first major event that I attended as principal at Oak Hill High School was the homecoming assembly. And I was blown away by the enthusiasm and participation. And this year was a reminder of what our school can do when we come together, because it was an amazing experience. And you could see down on the left-hand corner here this picture with two people doing cartwheels. The person on the right-hand side, that's Mrs. Finn doing that cartwheel. Exceptional skills when it comes to her math, but also in cartwheels. That's okay, no worries. Thank you very much. Oak Hill High School staff participated in the second part of ALICE training last Wednesday, which focused on scenarios, and you can see there's a picture of the staff preparing for that on the screen. The training was led by SRO Megan Brown. It was helpful for staff to work through simulated situations involving an intruder in the building. Staff members appreciated the efforts of SRO Brown, and we had a lively discussion that brought several questions to the forefront, which we'll bring to our administrative team meeting tomorrow to debrief. So we'll have some answers and some further information to share with our staff moving forward. Staff also gathered last Friday for our workshop day. We worked on the key components of Universal Tier 1, which you guys will hear a lot about throughout this school year. Specifically, it was curriculum resources. Staff members took stock of their units, learning plans, assessments, and instructional resources, and began inputting them into a collaborative spreadsheet. The work will help us identify any aspect of our curriculum that may not be effective according to our NWEA assessments. The work continued actually today during PLGs, and will again on Friday when Kathy joins us with a few of the English teachers to take a deeper dive into our English 3 curriculum. And I'm going to turn it over to Sue, as she's got a couple updates for you also.
Sue Rennie, Oak Hill High School. Wanted to just show you some of the recognition that we do at the high school. The one on the left is actually titled, I Want You to Know, and those cards are handed out by teachers to students when they recognize something very specific. For example, I wanted you to know I appreciate you being prepared every day. I wanted you to know I saw your generosity to another student. That card then is given to the student, and that student gets to decide to take it home right at that moment or put it in the bucket. You can kind of see the blue bucket, and that is the Raider card bucket, and one will be drawn at Student of the Month, and that student will win a little something, and the teacher that wrote it will also be recognized. That's just a small sample of what came in September. After the drawing, all cards will be mailed home. On the right with the color, you may have seen these before. These are part of our bar team. Grade 9 and 10 teachers mail these positive shares recognizing students. Again, they write a personal note, they sign it, and they usually address it right to the student, so it goes right home to them. And we are continuing with our PBIS. We are, again, trying to align our language with the middle school, so there is some continuity. And I just put in the bottom there, September Student of the Month recognition will be next week.
Two things, sorry. Is there a way just to give them back to students to save on postage at all, or instead of mailing them?
I think, yeah, we could, but what I find is that it's exciting to get mail, especially when it's positive mail. I know we are living in the digital world. I think it's 51 cents to mail a postcard, I think. And I think, again, parents like to know that their students are being recognized. And like you said, it gets smashed in the bottom of a bag and never comes out.
It still came home.
Yeah.
It still made it.
High school students usually, they don't even make it home, so.
So, and then are you keeping an eye out for those self-nominations? Just kidding. So, self-nominations, if you're self-nominating.
No.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean like a kid doing it? Yeah. I thought you were talking about us nominating ourselves.
Do they have something for grades 11 and 12?
That's the I wanted you to know. That's something I brought in this year. So those are school-wide. And that's kind of the thing I recognized is that when I started attending bar, I noticed that the positive shares were for grades 9 and 10, and 11 and 12 deserve it as well.
Any more questions, comments? All right, thank you. All right. Amy and Jenny from Oak Hill Middle School.
Good evening. I'm Amy St. Pierre, principal at Oak Hill Middle School, and I have Jenny Hudner, assistant principal, here with me. So at Oak Hill Middle School, both staff and students have been actively engaged in a wide range of activities. We have completed the second round of ALICE training the last week in September. The professional development sessions at Friday's workshop day focused on aligning curriculum goals and training. Our literacy teachers worked on phonics and phonemic awareness. Social studies teachers learned about reading and writing interventions. The math and science teachers integrated available resources with ongoing interventions. The afternoon was dedicated to bar training that was led by Mrs. Waterman, covering specific meeting types. And teachers who attended August's bar training led the I-Time activities with staff. And today we were visited by two of our bar coaches, Adina and Brad, who've been working with us on implementation. And their day today was filled with working with students and staff on different I-Time activities in grades 5 through 8, and also participating in different block meetings. In the classroom, 5th grade students have been learning real-world problem solving through investigation projects. Social studies have been learning about the Constitution and U.S. history. Math has strengthened their discussions on factors, multiples, and more. Manipulatives have played a key role in learning. And the literature and ELA teachers have been focusing on reading, author's craft, and engaging debates. While in 6th grade, students have revisited the codes of cooperation and standard operating procedures. Science has centered on matter and structure, while social studies has explored ancient civilizations, starting with Egypt. Math has been learning about area and surface area, and ELA has been exploring themes, symbols, and writing with character studies. In 7th grade, our science students have been studying cell structure and function. Social studies students have focused on geography and navigation tools. Math has emphasized proportional relationships, and ELA has been involved in a biography project with grammar and vocabulary, which bridges over to science and social studies. And our 8th grade learners have been in ELA tackling summarization and citing evidence. Students have been working on personal timelines and delved into real-world interactions in their social studies classes. In science, they focused on sun, earth, and the moon system, while in math, they've been exploring transformations, providing a comprehensive learning experience for all of them. And Ms. Hudner has some updates on PBIS.
So the implementation of PBIS in the middle school is ongoing with dedicated focus on reviewing the expectation matrix and school-wide procedures. We've been working together to make sure everyone is on the same page with expectations and the same language across grades 5 through 8. We're anticipating the development of our referral system that will clearly outline classroom and admin managed behaviors as a crucial step forward in the process. PBIS, or Positive Behavior Interventions and Support, categorizes behaviors into classroom managed and office or admin managed. Classroom managed behaviors like talking out of turn or minor disruptions are handled by the teacher using established strategies within the classroom. Office managed behaviors, which include more serious incidents like physical aggression, require intervention from administrators outside the classroom. This tiered approach ensures a safe and positive learning environment, addressing behaviors appropriately based on their severity. And we're also looking forward to, as the high school is aligning themselves with the middle school, working with Carrie Ricker and SPS to align our language with their language. So it will be a seamless approach when we have fourth graders move up to fifth grade in the future. Questions?
Robbie?
Yeah, I know in the past we've had, I know it's probably too early for at-risk students that aren't getting their work done or something like that. Do we still have teams put together to look at those students on a bi-weekly basis?
So that's some of the work that BAR is doing.
Right.
The teachers are doing that through their BAR program, but we also have a homework haven that's done after school as an intervention to support those students. That's done weekly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yes, we are looking at it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 5.3. Michaela Stevens, SPS.
All right, good evening, everyone. Michaela Stevens, principal at Sabattis Primary School. There we go. So I want to start off first by sharing some highlights of PBIS. We've really worked hard to make sure that all students are included within our universal tier, but then also recognizing those students that are doing the right thing on a daily basis. I think it's easy to just say, yep, that's our STAR model. But we have a Sammy Superstar lunch where they are celebrated. They are the heroes of their class. As you can see in the bottom left picture, we had our first Sammy Superstar lunch where kids were picked out of each homeroom of that constant example. And we took time to have a special moment together of coloring, playing games, eating our lunch, laughing and talking. And we had multiple other students just come up and hug their friends, high-five them, and say, wow, I can't wait for that to be me. So it's definitely a huge motivator. And then kids are asking, why are they getting those lunches? Because they're doing the expectations every day. However, we do have some kids that are consistently trying and then we're noticing them. So those are the ones that are getting picked with their little raccoon tickets. And then they are able to get called down to the office on a Friday and just be recognized over the intercom. So they're getting celebrated that way, and then get a prize of the prize box. And then as an entire class, to make sure every single kid in our student is being recognized, we're filling up tubes. And as soon as the grade level fills up their tubes, then they get to pick a class-wide celebration, whether it's having a PJ day, going outside for an extra recess. It's something that they want to choose as a class to do with their teachers. So that's super exciting, and we are almost there, so stay tuned. I'm sure that's going to be in my next report. Over to the right, I just tied this in with PBIS, and I will be talking about it on my last slide as well. We had a PBIS scavenger hunt where kids were going through the school looking for their SOPs. So it was kind of like a little safari hunt of SOPs, and it was really great to see because kids were like, I found one, and then acting it out. What does that look like? What does it mean? So it was a really cute idea from our PBIS coach, which I will share in just a minute. I just wanted to share some quick highlights of our in-service day. It was definitely time well spent. We started the morning off with our ALICE training. And I just want to share one testimonial that someone had at the beginning. They were very hesitant of how the training was going to go, not really sure, kind of wanted to stand back and watch. And I just want to give a big thank you to Megan Brown and her crew that came in of team to support us in ALICE training, because they were just so understanding, supportive, really met people at where they're at. And I had that same teacher after the first scenario that we did say, I am 100% bought in, like this is amazing training. And it was really nice to see people felt comfortable enough to participate. People felt like they were able to do something. It made sense to them. And it really made some interesting conversations that were relatable to what we would do in that situation, instead of thinking maybe we wouldn't be prepared. So it just was really nice. We had a very great support system coming in, helping us. It was well organized. So I can't say thanks enough to Megan and her team for helping us with that. And then also the staff for just having such an open mind and taking that training seriously. Next, we did a lot of work around our new reading units of study, looking through tying standards, getting Power School ready to go. So that was work well done. Staff worked hard on that. Also, Nancy Dwyer did coordinate a behavior workshop for special ed staff, and they found that very intriguing, where they were able to get some feedback even from their peers, making connections across the entire special ed district to be able to talk about behaviors, common behaviors that they're seeing, going through different scenarios and looking at strategies and interventions. So it was definitely a whole day well done. Lastly, I just want to recognize our coaches, Tracy Ireland, Brandy Munzie, Rebecca D'Alessandro. Each week we have the Peak of the Week that gets sent out to staff, and each week they send out a little tidbit, whether it's a strategy to use, whether it's our Math for Me, as you can see on the middle slide, of just inclusive math questions to ask all students, where maybe that is not their strong suit, but everyone can participate. Do you like Skittles or M&Ms? It can be as simple as that. You can look at colors if you're more of the artistic type. Or you can be looking at, oh, that's a candy I want more of. So it initiates that good conversation where you can start at any level, but you're all having a math conversation. So that's really what the Math for Me initiative is, and that's what Brandy's sending out weekly to our staff. So I just want to say thank you for that. Becky D'Alessandro on the right, she is making book shopping fun. Kids are so excited to get their new books in their book bags, and really just drawing attention to certain books for students to get them kind of more adventurous in some of their choices. And drawing their attention in that way. And it's something that all kids are looking forward to, excited to do, and it's giving teachers ideas as well, just to liven the process up and get as many books in students' hands as they can. And then lastly, what I was talking about, the scavenger hunt that Tracy Ireland did with staff. It was incredible. It had clues of where to go, and it was a mystery and job well done. Where they would be able to look at the clues, find them throughout the school, and just kind of celebrate, like, you guys know what to do. So every single student is getting noticed for that. So that's really important. Does anyone have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on to 5.3D, Dustin Miles and Sherry Poole from Libby Tozier and Carrie Ricker.
Good evening. Good evening, Dustin Miles, principal at Carrie Ricker School in Libby Tozier, and this is Sheree Poole, assistant principal. The past couple of weeks at Carrie Ricker, we have had some exciting school-wide events, as you can see on the screen. This is our PBIS themed assembly we did. PBIS Focus is we reviewed expectations, rewarded positive behavior with our awesome OWL certificates, and had a brand new award, the Hootie Award, to the class who earned the most positive points in gym. There was a tremendous difference between our first assembly of the year and this past week's assembly, as we have begun to implement PBIS school-wide. We have clear and concise expectations that are practiced and followed throughout the school. Our SOPs are being taught intentionally, being reviewed on a regular basis with all of our students to ensure everyone is hearing the same common language and expectations from all staff members. Thanks to our school-wide matrix and support from our PBS coach, Tracy Ireland. The next slide, we had Fire Safety Day yesterday at Carey Ricker. So a huge shout out to Chief Sherman, Litchfield Fire Department, for generously volunteering their time. Students were able to walk away with a brand new water bottle, lots of fire safety tips, and created conversation around fire safety for both staff and students. As you can see, it's a really exciting day. They were there the entire day. Met with each and every single student. All of our classes had an opportunity to go through that experience, so it was really special for them. Something we look forward to every year. Last Friday, we had our workshop day for all staff, including teachers and ed techs. This meaningful day included an opportunity for teachers to collaborate with each other, develop professional practice, and take away new learnings. This endeavor was done with the support of our literacy coach, Karen Matthew, math coach, Deb Witham, and our PBIS coach, Tracy Ireland. Teachers dove into professional development strategies that could be found useful in their classrooms at their particular grade levels and tiers by working in grade-specific teams in partnership with their instructional coach. It allowed for robust conversation with both long and short-term planning. According to our exit tickets, each teacher walked away from the day with a new tool that they can add to their educator toolbox and something they can try out in their classroom with their students in literacy or math the next week. We also want to thank SRO Brown and Deputy York for our second piece of our ALICE training. The staff really appreciated the thoroughness and the conversation that was able to be had. It was done in a way that was really supportive of all staff needs, and we really appreciated their approach to the ALICE training. Libby Tozier. Okay. We have seen students growing at rapid rates in literacy and math. It's amazing to see. They're literally learning to read right before your eyes. I've met with a student at the beginning of the year who was struggling with letter identification, putting letters together, different sounds, and today they're reading a book, about the cat goes down the street. It's pretty unbelievable. This team effort that includes staff members at Libby Tozier, from pre-K to instructional coaches, ed techs, and classroom teachers, is amazing. We also are implementing PBIS at Libby Tozier. As you can see, our different SOPs, from cafeteria to hallways, bathrooms have an SOP. An example of this is at the beginning of the school year, how we use these SOPs in PBIS. We began the process of having all 5 kindergarten classrooms in the cafeteria at the same time. This was an adjustment from last year, where we would have 3 or 2 at a time. Kindergarten classrooms, this was a bit tricky at first. We noticed an influx of behaviors during this time that would sometimes spill over to recess and into the classroom. Through our PBIS coach, classroom teachers' collaboration efforts, and the help of the custodial staff and the cafeteria staff, we set clear expectations for students to follow. We continue to develop common language to use for all of our students. And now we can have any staff member go in there during lunch, and the students know exactly what that expectation is. The staff member knows exactly what's expected out of the students. So they're interchangeable. The students are hearing the same language as they would with anyone. The transitions have seen a sharp decrease, according to our data, in behaviors from cafeteria to playground, as teachers found the best methods possible to ensure students were meeting our school SOPs in the hallway. This allows for more time in the classroom and less time distracting behaviors to take away from learning. The best part of all this, honestly, as you can see in the picture, how they're all lined up nice and neat. The students are smiling and building friendships and achieving at a very high level. Questions?
No questions? Thank you so much.
Can I just make an overall comment?
Sure.
I saw one of our staff members last night, and they mentioned that the training, the ALICE training, was the best training that they've attended in their many years in our school system. They said it was unfortunate you need to have it, but it was the best training that they've ever attended. So, again.
Thank you.
So, really, to sum it up, we were trained a certain way in response to active shooters. Many years ago, there was certain training of how do you respond to an active shooter, and it was very prescriptive. Like, you will do this, lights out, and it was very, you do the same thing. The ALICE training allows the teacher to be a decision maker in the moment. So it isn't, you must follow ABC. It's really listening to what is being communicated, listening to what you're hearing, seeing, and you make decisions on would you barricade yourself in with the students? Would you try to find an exit and evacuate? Would you, it's allowing you to take stock of what's going on and make the best decision for the safety of you and your students. Where before it was very uniform, you will do ABC. So it's empowering people to respond.
Does that answer your question? All right, we'll move on to, we have no director's report. That will be a.
Yeah, she's
Oh,
coming.
yeah.
Next page.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
she's going.
I'm on 5.4, Director's Report will be October 25th, and we'll move on to 5.5, and we'll do an oral report from our student rep, Destiny.
Hello. So, one thing I definitely want to touch upon was homecoming. It was really awesome, and as a senior, it was great to have our class win. I saw so much new spirit that I hadn't seen before, because as seniors, you realize this is your last one, you want to put your all. And it was a really wonderful experience. We put together our spirit board, our dance that we perform in front of the whole class. And normally in past years, we had a hard time reaching there's like a requirement of like, oh, you have to have 6 kids or 10 kids. But this year we had our entire class out there on the floor doing our dance with us. And it was just a really wonderful experience to feel so connected to your class for your last homecoming. And I'm really grateful for that. I didn't get to attend the bonfire or the dance because my parents were getting married that weekend. But I saw so many pictures, and people were texting me about how amazing it was and how much they enjoyed it. And a lot of seniors were very sad that this is their only one that they got to have, and they wish that they could have some more. But I'm really glad that it was a great turnout and everyone enjoyed it. Coming up, I had mentioned it before, but we do have our musical coming up on the first weekend of November. It's Legally Blonde, and it's been super fun to work on so far. I'm really excited about this musical. I get to play Elle Woods, so I will be Legally Blonde. And it's just been a really great experience. The songs are super funny and super amazing, and I highly recommend you to go see it. It's just a brilliant and super beautiful production, and we've put in so much work, and I'm just really grateful to be part of the cast, and I'm really excited to show it to the community. Tomorrow we are having, for FBLA, our Future Business Leaders of America program, a fundraiser to help us get to nationals in Rhode Island in November. We have a Dine to Donate event at Applebee's. I believe it's from 4 to 9, where you can show up at Applebee's in Auburn and have dinner, and 15% of proceeds will be donated to our extracurricular. And then we also have a 1-hour-long comedy show starting at 7 p.m. at the high school tomorrow with a professional comedian named Dennis Price. It's 1 hour, starts at 7, and I highly recommend people to attend. It's $10, and it's a really great chance to go and enjoy, have a great time, donate $10, and all the proceeds will come to our club, because nationals is really pricey, and it's a great opportunity for students to get involved with other FBLA members from outside of the state. So, yeah. Any questions?
Thank you. We'll move on to old business. 6.1, to approve the second reading of the following policies. GCI, Professional Staff Development Opportunities.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, call for the vote. Okay. Laura?
Yes.
Rob? Robert?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
And Jill?
Yes.
And yes.
Diane?
Yes. GCOC, evaluation of administrative staff.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. Laura?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Can't sit together. Doug?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. All right, we'll move on to 6.2, to continue budget discussion in response to the recent failed budget referendum. As you know, this will be the fourth time we work on approving a budget to bring to the towns. We need to tell Katie, our superintendent, what we want. It needs to be something that we can live with and all agree on. And I'll start the discussion tonight. What I'm hearing in the community is that people want a zero increase in the budget. That means we would need to cut roughly $468,000 more from the budget that was just voted down. Do you agree with that? What do you think it will take? So it's up to you. What do you think?
Guess for me, I'm hearing that they want cuts in the administrative level. I hate to bring it up, but we only have an hour to talk about it, so I'm going to try to just get right to the point, the meat of this. I keep, at every meeting I've ever been to where somebody has voiced from the taxpayer base has voiced an opinion, they wanted a cut from the administrative, and they wanted accountability for what the school is doing. Again, I don't think it's pleasant, but they've brought it to 3 or 4. I don't think it's a 0%, and I've heard people plenty of times say it's not about the money. They want to hear a cut. And again, we only have an hour to try to figure something out. It's a big deal.
And I know community members were also asking why teachers were cut from the budget and not administrators. And Katie, can you explain that?
So, you know, I think that's what's most difficult is listening and then understanding where cuts came from. So as I've shared before, and I want to reiterate, is looking at the budget and knowing coming in, as you said, coming in fiscally responsible and maintaining programming was top of mind. So as we looked across the district around positions, before the first budget was brought to the board, was looking at positions. And then as we got farther along, looking at positions as well. So when looking at teaching positions, looking at class sizes across the district to identify could there be reductions there, and then looking at the high school and enrollment, especially in the science department on different classes, could there be a reduction there? Looking at administration, could there be a reduction there? So what I brought to the board for reductions are reductions that we still maintain programming. When you look at administrative, and I shared with you last time around central office, that seems to be one, around who's at central office. And so looking at that, we have a central office that meets the demands of running a school department. And when we've looked across, and we did do another comparison, which I do have, from districts that have similar size enrollment, and we are in line with those districts as well. So when you look at administration and say, well, the community wants an administrator, there has to be more thought around impact on that. When we reduced teaching positions, we retained programming. We did not have a reduction in services. So any reduction in administration, especially central office, is going to have impact in pushing all the responsibilities of that position onto other folks, will impact delivery of maintaining operations of a school department. So the reason administrator wasn't brought forward is because of impact. When I was asked to bring administrator forward, I brought the dean of students forward as a possibility because that position will be hard to retain the following year. So you either do, now, or we're going to have this discussion again next year where we have to bring in other positions from grant-funded positions. So that's why is really looking at impact. Didn't impact someone's livelihood. Right now, any reductions is going to impact livelihood. It's going to cause a reduction in force. And then the savings is not at the same level. For example, we're going into another budget season, right? And so with those, when you have reductions, it's how does that impact in the savings? So that was the reasoning around what positions were identified and why they were identified. Jill has her hand up.
Jill?
So I want to go back to what Doug kind of said about it's not about the money, it's about an administrator. In the beginning of the budget talks, it was all about money. And we cut that stuff back. And then now it's about administration. So it's been very hard for Katie and the school board to come up with it when it's been several different factors that people are asking for. It hasn't been one thing or the other. So we reduced it so that it was only a 2.2, I think it was, Katie?
Yes.
Increase from the 7 that we had. That was good enough. So now you're wanting admin. So it's not just about money or admin. I'm not sure where we're wanting to go at this point. There's no place to cut. We've done what we could do.
Thank you, Jill. Laura? Is it possible to have like the budget meetings on like a Saturday? Do you think, because we've attended the ones at the high school and I think some people have kind of given up going to those and they just go vote. Because clearly we had 795 people vote last time and we had 46 at the last meeting or so that came to the high school. So do we want to try that meeting on a Saturday or Sunday or different to get more participation at that meeting?
Well, wouldn't that just cause it to not pass?
Hold on, Jill. Doug's speaking.
Well, sorry, Jill. I mean, if,
So we
had more people at the polls vote and they passed, they voted no, and it passed at the high school with less people, wouldn't that just make it not pass at the high school if we had it on a Saturday with more people there?
With 10,000, like we have 10,000 roughly voters, right, in the 3 towns or something like that I saw. So by giving opportunity on a Saturday when more people maybe aren't working than during the week, they could come to that meeting and get the information as well. I'm just trying to think of other ways to get people the information to support it, right? Like that's the ultimate goal is to support it or to get enough education out there that the majority support it. So the other things they always say like, well, maybe we cut sports and that'll get people to come out and support it because they don't want sports cut, So I think that this last budget, I feel like it didn't pass because it cut teacher positions and the census was that it impacted our students. And then, we didn't have those positions filled, but you also can't fill those positions if you don't have them in the budget to post, right? So I feel like this last round was not supported because of so many positions that were open that were eliminated. So maybe adding, compromising and adding like the science teacher, the 4th grade teacher, and one of the 3 ed techs that were cut? By adding those back in, is my thought. And adding 20,000, 25,000 for paying bus drivers to get education to be able to drive bus for us with a contract of upwards of 2 years, or they have to pay it back. Bob?
Yeah. So first of all, to Doug's point, the budget meeting, we present a budget. We recommend the budget. At the budget meeting, they set the budget. So at the budget meeting, you cannot come out of a budget meeting with no budget. So they can't vote down a budget at the budget meeting. What they do is they set the budget dollar amount by article and in total. And then that goes to the referendum. All right. Every 5 years, every 3 years, we're supposed to offer a ballot question whether or not they want to continue with the budget validation or go just to the budget meeting. So the last time it did, it carried that they would continue with the process the way it is. We got to be coming up on that time frame again fairly soon. Maybe it was this year, maybe it's next year, but it's pretty soon. So I've always supported it. Everybody should be required to vote, but that's not going to happen. And I believe that every administrative position we have has a really strong indirect and a maybe a little bit weaker direct impact on the education that's provided, because the administrators support the teachers. And when we didn't have administrators in all the buildings, we were getting complaints from the teachers that they didn't feel like they were being supported. We added the dean of students because the parents were concerned because there was disciplinary problems in the middle school, and we needed to add somebody else to help us do that. So we've put administrators in place as a result of actions that were necessary to drive them. I also would not have voted for eliminating the teaching positions if we had people in those places. But since the science teacher was the example that we didn't have any applicants, school started within a week, all the schedules have been made up, there's no way you add another science teacher a month into the school year, and then you have to redo everybody's schedule in the whole high school to go around that. So that's why I supported those positions that were open. I kind of go along. If money's not the issue, and it's just administrator, if that's it, then I would propose that we put those teaching positions back into the budget so that they'll be there next year. That's going to add a couple $100,000 or more to the budget. But if money's not an issue, that doesn't matter. If it's an administrator, then I would suggest that we have 2 administrators that positions end in June of next year because they are funded by a grant. Is that correct?
You have the assistant principal at the middle school and the dean of students at the middle school.
Right, so that's the 2. So if chances are they're not going to be approved to go into the budget in future years, so we could eliminate those positions at the end of the year, and there's their administrator cuts. And again, that has no impact on the budget because they're not funded out of our budget dollars. They're funded by ARP funds or ESSER funds. But that would answer the call for blood from administrators, and it would answer the call to go and put staff back in, and it would raise the cost of the budget by a couple $100,000 or more. It meets all the requirements that we keep hearing people say: cut an administrator, bring the teachers back. There it is.
Jill? I know Jill had something to say. No?
I'm good.
Okay. Doug?
I want to add that I completely agree with what Rob's trying to say, and I think I'm getting frustrated about is that I agree to the point where I think that the budget as it is a good budget, and I think we've cut everything that I fundamentally think shouldn't be. But I get frustrated that 3 times trying to do the same thing that I think is the right part of being the right thing, and it constantly being voted down. It starts to be insanity when you're doing the same thing and you're getting the same result and you're expecting a different result. So unfortunately, even against my better judgment, I feel like what I'm hearing is some sort of administrative position is what they're saying, and I think that some sort of compromise like that should be thrown out. We should come with a different strategy or plan as a board, because if we just don't make a final product that's different than the last final product and try to present that, we're just going to be back here again. And I don't think anybody wants that. So I'm just.
If I may, just.
Go ahead.
So our job is to recommend a budget that we believe provides the educational programming that's necessary to educate our students. The community's responsibility is come to the budget meeting and modify our recommended budget however they want to modify it. So when we recommend X number of dollars, Joe Smuckatelli can get up and say, I want to increase that amount by 100,000, or I want to decrease it by 100,000. That's the public's responsibility. We all have a different responsibility. So people that come to the budget meeting, they are the ones that modify the amounts that come out of the budget meeting that go to referendum and changes. Now, in saying that, they have to understand that if they cut 100,000, they might hopefully they would say where they want that, what that 100,000 represents. But even if they do, it really then when a budget does pass, it comes back to the board to decide what, where, and how to spend the dollars that they give us. So they might not be 100% happy with the outcome of what actually happens with the cut, but those are usually pretty well considered, right? So that's, and then it goes to referendum, and it's everybody's responsibility to vote to either approve what the townspeople have presented them for a budget out of the budget meeting, or to turn it down. If they turn it down, we come back. But again, let's don't lose sight of what our responsibility is, and then let the community know what their responsibility is.
I mean, in counter argument, it's not an argument. Counter discussion is, I think that I'm getting the impression they have let us know, and 3 times, and they've been here 3 times. And this is just discussion.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to make it. I'm trying to just advocate to get something done before 8:30 hits, so that we're not doing this all over. And I just think that we should be spending our time trying to figure out how to cut an administrator, and maybe just, I'm willing to roll with the plan that you presented, kind of ad hoc, with putting the teachers back in, and then cutting some sort of administrator, or dealing with the SRP funding positions, that kind of SR funding, something, because I'm getting the impression the community has spoken, and I feel like it is our responsibility to try to deal with what they're saying, and they're telling us that they don't want to vote for the budget that we've been presenting. So instead of, just being like, well, this is why, which we've told them, and they still keep wanting to. So,
Christy?
Thank you. So I think we're not listening. I think we've asked for an administrative cut. It was presented for the Dean of Students. We heard loud and clear that is not the type of administrative cut that we are looking for. I think the administrative cut that we're looking for is one that doesn't have evidence. The 2 administrative positions that are funded currently through the ARP have shown evidence in terms of office referrals, behaviors, impacts of students. Those are the things that the community is proud of. They know that the system at the middle school is working. And I have heard parents talk about wanting to figure out ways to make that base funded. So it is a grant funded moving forward, because that's the building that has the most students. It doesn't make sense to cut administrative positions when you're at the building that has the most students. Middle school has the most students. What I am hearing is that administrative cuts, or not necessarily cuts, but making sure that central office is operating as lean as it can. And what I'm hearing from the community is that they're looking at standardized test scores, and it's really hard to make an investment in upper level administration when test scores are low. They're not looking necessarily for a building administrative cut. That's what I'm hearing personally. So to Bob's point, I would not be in favor of cutting a grant funded position administratively, because that's not really a real cut. That's just placating. That's not what people are looking for. They're looking for action. In terms of recommendations, I need to think more. Go for it.
I didn't want to recommend, because throwing a recommendation out on the floor is going to make a lot of people very upset. But again, we have 35 minutes or so to try to figure something out. So I'm willing to just throw it out there. And it is, I've actually been reading through all of this stuff from August, the paperwork and everything. And there's no, I just feel like I have to preface this with, this is based on actually going through stuff and because of a time limit. I think that we could take, you gave us this sheet about the roles and responsibilities of this assistant superintendent. Could we divide these 4 duties up amongst other administrative staff and have just one superintendent? Because I do hear that a lot. And I don't want this. I'm just saying that if we have 30 minutes and we need to make a cut to administration, this is not off of the realm of feasibility. And I know nobody wants to say it because it's getting kind of close to the, it's unfortunate. I don't know the way.
So I have a question on that because it's contracted, right? So that position, when does that contract expire?
June.
In June.
Next June, Katie? You don't talk about personnel, you talk about position.
So the assistant superintendent position.
You're talking about the position.
Yeah.
Right. So you would reduce the position and we would tell you what the savings would be on that.
Because there's also, is there payouts with certain contracts you would have to pay regardless type of thing?
There's a 90-day notice.
Okay. Thank you.
For me, it's,
vote?
I guess, to throw it, I feel like you need some elaboration for where I'm coming at with it. It's that food service is, I don't know if that's a stipendable because we don't have any actual figures for what would happen. I noticed in other towns, back when we got this in August, other towns, they have they'll roll that food service coordinator over. Could that go to one of the people that work in the food service part?
It was previously in another position, right?
It was.
What position was the food service previously in?
It was director of facilities.
And
Director of facilities.
And then is there any way like a head cook? Like how many head cooks do we have?
So I will note that every district that I looked at, and I'm going to send you the latest, has a food service director. So I was asked to, I believe it was you, Gary, look at districts that have a similar size. And so when I went on the DOE website, and you can look at it as well, I looked at the report on attending students where there is a budget impact. And so I compared us to Ellsworth that has 1329, Lisbon at 1311, Caribou RSU 39 at 1220, Maranacook RSU 38 at 1207, and Herman at 1397. So every school department except for one has 2 positions, the superintendent or a curriculum director. One district has a superintendent / curriculum coordinator, which is Caribou. So you can see the comparative around a district our size and what they have in their central office. So I think it's important to note that even smaller districts than us do not have more positions. So I think it's important to understand that to not have the assistant superintendent do the food service, we would have to bring back to, if you're going to say that's what we want reduced, we need time to think through how's that going to impact every position on picking up the workload.
Katie, did it not happen that when we changed the title from curriculum coordinator to assistant superintendent, it moved her cost center?
Yes.
Moved her to a different cost center.
Correct.
Sorry, Jill?
So if we put that position send it off into other folks, we have to pay those folks to do that extra work. So where's the savings in kind of moving the position? I'm for changing her back to the curriculum director, and bringing her in a different cost center, because that may be what's causing everybody to see is that administration budget went up, but that was because we changed her title. But I'm not willing to eliminate that position, that different assistant superintendent position.
Laura? Is this open to public discussion at all during this time too? It was previously, but I was just curious.
We'd have to make a motion.
Until we're done.
When we're done.
That's the policy that has always been followed, or practice, I guess it's not followed. Practice has always been on issues like this, that once the board believes it has kind of completed its discussion, then we can ask for public comments.
Okay.
We
'Cause
can
we
get
did it
those,
first
and
last-
then the board comes back again and has an opportunity to take those items under discussion. But that has been a practice for a long time. We don't have to allow it, but board chairs, such as myself in the past, have always allowed that on important issues, to allow to get some input. But after the board had hashed out something so that they knew where we were kind of standing at, so that they could address what they thought we were at, and not before we got there.
Okay. Do you have something else to say as well?
Yeah, so the reason I happened to meet an older lady on the golf course about 2 weeks ago who was the assistant superintendent in RSU, in Union 44, back before I got on the board some 27, 28 years ago. And I just happened to team up with her and her husband. We were singles and we joined together. And her name was Eileen. She worked, I can't remember what the superintendent was.
Eileen Myers.
So we've had an assistant superintendent for a long time.
Yes, we have.
We changed the title to Director of Curriculum and Instruction to more appropriately focus on what the major task was for the position. And then when we started losing superintendents mid-year, without an assistant superintendent title, we will have to go to the Department of Education and hire a temporary superintendent until we hire a new one at the cost of what that does. Because only those with the title and credentials for a superintendent or an assistant superintendent can sign the papers that are required to be submitted to the Department of Education, state and federal-wise. So that's why we changed the title. Otherwise, last spring, when our last superintendent left in February, until the end, until we hired Katie to start it, we would have had to have hired an outside superintendent in order to do it. So you hire somebody that has absolutely no idea what your school district is doing, what it's been doing, doesn't know anything about the culture, doesn't know anything about the people, and you bring them in and put them in charge. And we've seen that. We've been through a number of assistants, temporary superintendents in the past. So that's why the title was there, so that we have somebody in-house that can cover. Katie gets in a car accident, God forbid, and is laid up in a month in the hospital.
Wins the lottery.
Thanks.
Always goes wins
Thank
the
you,
lottery.
Laura.
Yeah.
Wins
Wins the lottery.
Wins the lottery.
Always go that route.
Adios.
I still come to work.
Oh, stop it.
It takes off. We have to
drive you
have
back
somebody, and then it's a mad scramble. So that's why we have someone with the title, the position that's called assistant superintendent. We have contracts for all of our employees. Almost every employee either has a contract or they're in a negotiating unit. And whatever those contracts say about adding responsibilities and then negotiating the impact, I don't have any idea what that cost would end up being. So when we want to divvy these duties out to others, it doesn't mean that it goes out to people first. You either got to say you're going to do this, I don't care whether you want to or not, or you got to ask somebody to go and take on extra duties. And if you talk to any of the other administrators, I'm pretty sure they're going to tell you they got a pretty full plate already. All right, but so personally, I can't support cutting this position, or I don't want to cut any of the administrators. The only ones that I could even even come close to is the ones that I know next July we probably won't have, because I don't think that community is going to allow us to increase the budget for a dean of students or assistant superintendent. We could move the assistant superintendent from Carrie Ricker over to the middle school.
Assistant principal.
Or assistant principal, I'm sorry. The assistant principal from Carrie Ricker to Sabattis Middle, where the population needs one more than it does over there, so that would give the middle school the extra support that it would need. But those are details as far as if the staffing is changed away, the board would have to decide where we want to put the assets that we remained with. So there is no good decision. And my concern is that I take an oath just like you did. My oath is not to appease the public. My oath is to do the best that I can. If the public doesn't like it, they can change it at the budget meeting. That's their responsibility. If the people what happens at the budget meeting they don't like, then the voters can turn it down to the referendum, and the process starts over and over and over. And that's the way it works. That's how it's supposed to work, right? So I take my oath is to provide the best education that we can provide for the students in our community and take care of our staff. That's our oath.
I just needed a clarifying question. So if hypothetically the superintendent won the lottery, we didn't have a superintendent, I thought that we had a business or building administrators that were qualified to sign documents, but that's not.
No.
Not the case. They might have credentials, but they don't have the title. And as soon as we give them the title, then we got our assistant superintendent back. Right? So, I mean, that's the position we would be in.
I thought at a few meetings ago, like long ago, it was that we had people with credentials that could, if we had to, sign documents, and there was not a superintendent or assistant superintendent. But do we, Katie?
You would have to name an interim superintendent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Doug?
So, just again, for the record, I'm just trying to break the taxpayer school board filibuster that's kind of going on. I'm not trying to do anything, I agree with a lot of this, but I do also think that the best thing for the schools and the children in the schools is to not have a taxpayer school committee filibuster. And if that means that we need to try to deal with some unpleasant issues, I'm willing to do it, because I think that just constantly doing this over and over again is why everybody's so grumpy about the school buses, and why the taxpayers are just complaining about how much the superintendent gets paid what she gets paid, and she gets paid right on board with what other superintendents get paid in the state of Maine. And I've sit in meetings where they're going after the superintendent and all this, and I think it's just this general unhappiness that we're not even, we need to address it whether it's unpleasant or not. And that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not, for everybody, I guess, for all of you out there or that's listening, we are trying. This is not an easy thing to do. And I just feel like it's important to say that, because I've been sitting in a lot of meetings too, where people think that the school board and the school committee are not trying. And this is not an easy thing to do. I mean, it's just,
Robbie?
Yeah. I've been here a long time, and I've been through budget cuts, and I've been through different things, and I can tell you that anybody that tells you it's not about the money, they're wrong. People don't want to pay more taxes. And in order not to pay more taxes, we have to have the cuts. We got handed by the state, because every town's evaluation went up, a hole in the budget we knew we weren't going to be able to fill. So consequently, here we are on our fourth go around on the budget. And then if you want to cut an administrator, I'm not in favor of cutting an administrator. For the simple fact is, those impact not only students, it impacts teachers, it impacts how the school is run. We have administrators for a reason, and their plates are full. Now, if you want to say we don't need an administrator, that's fine. Like Bob said, you can come to the budget meeting and you can cut that line, and then we can decide where that money goes. But that's up to the taxpayers to do at the budget meeting. Our job is to try and get the best education that we think we can supply our students and support our staff as we do it. We've made considerable increases in staff pay, bus drivers, teachers, food service workers. Same thing with our administrators. I've been through 4 administrators in 3 years. They come, they stay a year, they get experience, and they're off to another district to make $30,000 more. If that's the school district that we want to run, we can do that. But I don't think that's the majority of the people in our 3 towns what they want. And anybody tells you it's not about the money, they're not telling you the truth. It's about the money. People are shooting down this budget because the money is too high.
Destiny?
Oh, sorry, Destiny.
I'm not exactly sure what the solution is. I'm just a student, I guess. But I can say that as a student, I've seen lots of impacts because of this. But I don't know what the solution is. But there is a stress bubble in our community, and the students are experiencing that impact, whether it's in our science department with the lack of the amount of time we need for resources due to bigger class sizes or less time for teachers to have more class periods for a certain class. There's an impact, and whatever the solution is, people really just need to come together and find a solution. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but there is an impact, and I feel like we haven't heard from students who are experiencing this firsthand. But it is frustrating and it's hard to deal with. And although I graduate this year, it is a little stressful to see that my brother will come up next year to the high school and experience the same things that we're experiencing in my community. So it is just, there are impacts, and it sounds like when I listen here and I'm detached from being a student, it's like, it just sounds like numbers and money being tossed around, but it is also education. So that's all.
So what would you like Katie to do for this next meeting?
So if we make a suggestion, do we make a motion and then we vote on it? Do we just make a suggestion and see how many people want to support it?
A consensus.
Yeah, because we got no item on the agenda allow for a motion and a vote.
So I would recommend looking at cutting assistant superintendent, replacing the science and the 4th grade teacher and one of the 3 ed techs.
To go with that, again, I'm trying to approach this from I have a sciencey background, so very logical. I work with pieces. We got a sheet that just kind of covered assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction and the general duties. I would prefer to have some sort of itemized, what would each of those duties cost if broken up into smaller pieces? Do we need a separate person for each one? Are they just a stipendable thing that could be in addition to somebody else's duties? So somebody else in the school could maybe get a bonus by trying to take on some of the duties that got cut off or shaved off. Something like that. Something instead of just it being so general, getting a little bit more. And again, just in an effort to try to do something.
So I'm hearing from 2 sides saying assistant superintendent position, bringing back some teachers. Is that?
Does anybody have any other position that they can think of? Because I'm willing to entertain that. That's the.
I offered up to, right? So, I mean, you asked if anybody else had one, so I offered up to, and they're important, and we don't want them to go. But I know what it is. Being here, people out in the community, unfortunately, are believing some information that is not correct, and they are looking. I mean, I saw recently, I don't go on Facebook. Occasionally my wife says, here, look at this, all right? So I don't get wrapped up in it, All right. My phone hasn't rang and I haven't got a personal email from any of my constituents. All right. So, and maybe I'm just a little different, or maybe they like the position I'm taking, and so they're not saying anything. You know, I mean, I have a constituent that comes and speaks at the meeting, and that's great. All right. But, you know, I'm not in favor, and I will not cast a vote that the board recommends elimination of the assistant superintendent position. I'm one small vote. That's up to the people in the community. Remember, we took this budget to the budget meeting. It was approved.
Mm-hmm.
So and they're the ones who sent it to referendum. So if the people that come to the budget meeting and approve the budget, that's what it is. Our job's to recommend one. If they can turn out enough no's to modify stuff at the budget meeting, then that's what would go to the referendum. So they're the people in power. They're the ones who will set the budget that goes to referendum, not us. Our job is to make a recommendation on what we think is the best budget for our educational system as a whole, and then let the community members hopefully be informed and go to the budget meeting and make the changes. So I believe that the budget we submitted last time is the budget that should be submitted. If you're going to shave a few dollars, we want to look at the Courier. I understand that there is stuff that DocuSign is fine, but I happen to know that when I filled out my Social Security, the federal government sent me a paper form after I did it online. I had to sign it and send it back. They weren't taking no DocuServe or sign. And that's the same with a lot of other documents. They're going to have original signatures. HEPA and all the other things apply. They have to be back and forth. Now, whether we're going to tax the administrators or somebody to courier it, but it has to be couriered around by some means. So maybe there's a couple of dollars there. We were lucky in that our health insurance came in low and our workers' comp came in low.
Fuel.
And fuel. So those gave us some big cuts without having to impact any project. Next year's budget, I think the towns got their new assessments from the state. Mm-hmm. They've gone up millions, percentages. Litchfield's has gone up tremendously. That means next year, Litchfield's going to get less money from the state and have to contribute more. Wales is the same, and Sabatis. Mm-hmm. So next year's budget is even going to be worse dollar-wise by far than this one. Maybe it will be going in.
Laura?
Just wondering if we could maybe go around and see where everyone's at.
Christy?
We can come back to me.
Doug?
Just from looking at this, it seems like the assistant superintendent is the one to at least try to pursue right now as a position to try to divvy up. I am more than open to any other logical position that will allow us to just get the budget passed. And I agree that I think that the taxpayers have said that they don't like the budget. I think that we're already at the step where they've, pending the way the system works, instead of voting it at the middle school, at the high school, and telling us they want 100,000 less, they've just voted in general at the big picture. So we're in that same position instead of just constantly doing this loop. But I think any other position that we could kind of cut. But I do want to say again, I mean, I'm really long-winded with this. I don't want any administrators running either, because I have worked for school systems where the administration has been squeezed and squeezed, and then all the good ones leave, and then being a teacher in that system really is terrible. And then the teachers start to leave, you know. So I'm not pushing for anything. I'm just trying to respond and prevent a filibuster. So that's my long-winded thing. And the only thing I can see is this, is a way.
Brandon?
Sorry, Brandon.
That's okay. You can be long-winded for both of us. So I am still in favor of adding the positions that were unfilled back into the budget if it's not a monetary thing. Anyone that I've spoken to, money wasn't the driving force. I don't know that, I mean, even seeing the assistant superintendent, if that was cut and then divvied up, you're still paying for the same thing. So that doesn't make any sense to me personally. but people want clarity as to what the administration actually looks like, and I don't know how to give that clear of a picture for what that would entail. But I mean, kind of piggybacking off what Christy had said earlier, I mean, if we have the 2 positions that are grant funded but they're working, I think you wouldn't have that far of a stretch to add those into a budget to pay that to be a long-term position if it's showing results, and that's what people want to see is results. They're upset about the test scores not being where they want to be. They want to see results. So how can we go through what we had for administration to have a resulting impact from that to be seen with everybody that's having that question? That's where I'm at.
Jill?
So you say it's not about money, but you want to cut a position, so that's money, right? So that's a savings somewhere. That's what it is. So I think in some way or another, it's becoming a personal thing outside of the community that they want administration cut. It's money, but that's where they think the most of their money is going. I'm not in favor of cutting an administration at all. I'd be in favor of adding a teacher in short, if that would make it helpful, but I want to send this exact same budget back to our public budget meeting and educate the public that they need to come to the meeting and they are responsible for changing the numbers, not us.
Robbie?
Well, I agree with Jill. It's about the money, and if you cut a position, you're going to save money. So I would be in favor. I would not be in favor of cutting any position. I would be in favor of putting one back in, but I know that probably wouldn't fly because I personally think it's about the money. People don't want to pay more taxes. And if $124 on a $200,000 home is too much for you, I get it. That's your opinion, because that's what we were down to, $124 on a $200,000 home. And that's for a whole year. So no, I would not be in favor of cutting an administrative position. But if it's not about the money, I'd be more than willing to put the science teacher back in. And a 4th grade teacher, I would love classroom sizes to come down in 4th grade. So, yeah, that's where I stand.
Yeah, I think find it clear. I cannot support a reduction of any of our of anybody in our staff, whether it's an administrator or another teacher or whatever. If it was about money and we'd have to do it, then we'd have to look at programs. If it's not about the money, then I would support putting that. You know, we cut the science teacher and the 4th grade teacher and the ed techs because we were trying to get the dollars down. And they weren't filled positions, and school was starting within a week, and so, you know, what were you going to do with those positions? They'd go unfilled, and you'd collect the money out it all year and just have it left over. So I would support adding, if people are upset because we reduce teaching staff, I would support adding them back in, but not cutting an administrator, and then letting the public speak at the budget meeting to what they want to send a referendum. There's a lot of misinformation out there, you know, about how much each type of employee received for an increase, you know. So people need to either look at the contract or ask somebody who can really explain to them just how much people get paid, because there's steps and there's increases to the bottom line, and they just see the bottom line and don't see the step increase when they look at a percentage of increase. So we're paying our people. We had to pay our administrators more to get them up so we could get quality administrators and keep the quality administrators we had. We had to get them in line. So we did that. The teachers got a big bump in their last contract. Some saw a 25 or 30% increase. One time because of we had to get them up. They were down. We were underpaying them. We had to keep good quality teachers. We had to pay them more. So they got their big increase first, and it was followed by our other units. So, you know, people got to have the right idea of how we're treating our staff. But I would support putting those positions back in, and that be the only modification, and take it to the budget meeting and see if it is really about the money or if it's about a position, because they can choose where to go and cut it.
Laura?
I propose the reduction of the assistant superintendent position. I feel like, from a curriculum perspective, I think that we have quite a few teachers maybe starting a committee and they can assess at a committee level. We have quite a few teachers that have quite extensive education and trainings and things. So, and then as we look at different opportunities within the buildings and the teams, it's teams of people doing it, right? So moving towards a model of that. And then, I think that the food service, maybe one of the head cooks could assist with that. Grants and things, I think maybe the business administrator could help with that. So I think a lot of these could be reallocated to different functions within what we currently have. I also would support, one of the things when we were working last spring and we put all these sticky notes up, I think every single person in this room said reduction of class sizes. Low class sizes was our main priority. And what did we do? We increased class sizes, right? And so one of the things was, well, if there's a need, we'll put it in. Well, there was a need, right? There was a need, and you can't fill a position if you don't have it in your budget. So eliminate it completely. How are you going to get a science teacher and a fourth grade additional teacher when you don't have it in the budget? So I would suggest putting those back in, and then with the ed techs eliminating, doing a compromise, we'll put one in. We do eliminate two, we put one in and make a compromise on that. I think some of this is just, we've heard you, this is our proposal, and we're going to compromise and assess next year, because we're how many months away from talking 2024, 2025 budget?
2 months.
So, what do we have to do? 8:30, right? To get this conversation and an agreement to present something. And then I also propose changing the date. Wednesday, Thursday afternoons are hard for people to get to. There's been several comments about that, as well as, kind of experiencing that some of ourselves with the multitude of things that we have to do as parents and all of that on the side. But I think I would suggest changing it to a Saturday.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can't get it for a town meeting on Saturday.
Is that possible, Katie, or no?
Well, the time, we're hearing complaint about absentee ballot. You can't do it a Saturday to make it in time. In order to do what was asked earlier, would be you would have to have a meeting probably. The only way you could back it up is instead of having your meeting on Wednesday next week, you'd have it on Monday. And then it would go, you have to go 7 days. This is what's the holdup. So you go Tuesday. Well, no, I'm told by the. No, I'm talking about the posting of the public meeting has to be 7 days. So that would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So the earliest we could have it, we were having it that Thursday, you could have it Tuesday. That gives you 2 extra days for absentee ballot. That's the only thing you can do for adjustment. Yes?
You do understand that that's statute, that's state statute.
Right, so the 7-day post. No, it's a 7-day posting. What I'm saying is in order, we tried to make it so that November 7th, we would be voting. Right. So they're having the meeting tonight. You don't usually have a discussion before you make a decision. They would have to have a majority decide they're going to vote on a budget tonight, and then we'd have to do the 7-day posting, right?
And then just to finish my comment is I don't think any of it's personal. I don't even know that some of the people that comment have any kids in the district or anything like that. So I don't think it's anything personal, and I hope that nobody is also thinking that, because it's just where we're at. It's what the community has been continuing to say. So I don't think that either. So
Yeah, I agree with Doug and with Laura and some of the things. It is the community that is speaking, and I've gotten lots of calls regarding that. Finding out what those positions are that she does, and if they can be even divided is a big stretch too, and how much it's going to cost. So we're probably back to the same point we were to begin with. So what is it we want to do? Do we want Katie to do that for next week?
No.
Oh, yeah, Christy.
Yes. Yeah, you haven't heard from me because
can
I'm
make the
trying.
decision.
I'm not making the decision, but I'm looking back on kind of systematic changes that we've made in terms of positions in the last few years. One of the major changes was the assistant superintendent to curriculum coordinator, which moved her from Article 7 to Article 6. Or
from 5 to 6.
5 to 6. The other thing that we haven't talked about is the fact that we used to have a half-time athletic director and a half-time adult ed director. Both of those positions are now full-time. So looking at cuts to Article 4, potentially.
Entirely full-time, right?
Yes.
Or is adult ed is...
Adult ed is three-quarter time
And I
at
don't
this
think
point.
you can touch adult ed.
We
right?
can't.
It's 30.
That's off the list.
Thank you.
Right?
Well,
No.
in checking, you could bring that article back
Okay.
and revote it. It's not going to change the overall expenditure line. It changes impact on taxes.
Correct. I mean, the other thing is, to Laura's point, like next month we'll be talking about next school year's budget. So really what we need to do is try to figure out what the bottom line is for this year to get it passed, and then we can make these larger systematic changes moving forward. And thinking about that, it is about money. It is about evidence and however you define that, because as a parent of kids in this district, I think our district is doing an amazing job. I think that our teachers are doing phenomenal. I think that our administrators are phenomenal. I think my kids have access to a really high quality education, and I hope that doesn't get lost kind of in the noise of all of this. But we have to balance this with the fact that every single thing in our lives is costing more. And people need to pay their bills to live in their homes. And the strategies of freezing taxes is no longer on the table. There's just like, this is the perfect storm. So with that being said, I think if I was going to look at a position, I would be in favor of looking at moving the assistant superintendent position back to a curriculum coordinator position. But not to cut that position. Not to cut. So that would be moving cost center,
Right.
essentially.
And I've been in this district for 36 years, and we've always had a curriculum coordinator. We've never gone without one. We've always had superintendent and curriculum coordinator.
Or an assistant superintendent curriculum assessment.
Right,
instruction.
right.
That was the title for the assistant superintendent, actually always carried. Assistant superintendent curriculum assessment and instruction.
Well, I mean, again, figures. I feel like curriculum assessment instruction coordinator is a lower pay scale than assistant superintendent. And I don't know if that's a fact, but I feel like there's got to be a difference in some sort of pay just by title. Right.
Is that correct, Katie?
Well, I think it depends. Depends on where the community puts where. Some checking in, a curriculum coordinator gets a certain amount and then gets a stipend if they have to cover for the superintendent. That bumps it up. So we would have to look at across, the ones that I compared, I did not ask them how much their curriculum coordinators are being paid.
And that's why I feel like all these
Could be-
details are important.
I mean, we can bring that back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they both require a master's degree, I would assume, as a minimum, right?
Yeah.
Just to put that
Yeah.
out there. So that's 6 years of further secondary education, right?
4 and 2, yeah.
So when we changed the title, did it change the salary?
I believe yes.
If I may.
I think it said
Yes.
So Maine State Schools used to always publish, and we used to always get as a board, a list of all the salaries of every administrator position in the state. So you could look up and see what the administrator in SAD 52 was making as the director of curriculum, or what they were making. So you could see what the state average was. For some reason, we stopped getting those a few years ago, but they were always helpful, especially in negotiations and in discussions like this. Because if we had that, we could open up and we could see in our area, general area, what's the difference in pay between a director of curriculum assessment and instruction and assistant superintendent which is also, assessment instruction as well, because you have to have somebody to do that, because the teachers are doing a great job because they're getting the training that they need and they're getting a curriculum that they go and use, and that falls on that person's plate. Otherwise, we go back to where we were when we had all the different school systems. Each school had their own curriculum. Each school did it differently, and when they got to the high school, the teachers could tell which student came from which school system based upon how they performed in different subjects. And we have worked real hard to make that not be the case.
We're way beyond 8:30, so we need to come up with some.
It's 9 o'clock.
Oh, it's not.
Doug
Oh,
said
you
then
still have to
8:30.
continue. Yeah,
Nope.
we're gonna
I-
continue.
I do think
I was
that
thinking 8:30 the whole time. I apologize for that.
I do think that the district did a really good job at getting information out. I know there was some robocalls, there was mailers, there was the Facebook post, and so I do think that information getting out is good. There's a Q&A. I think some people have been using as well. So I think from that standpoint, we've done a good job at getting awareness out there. And then I think the towns even shared information previously too. I heard some people were like, I didn't get it, and I'm like, well, talk with the UPS or some other places. But I also think that's part of the community's responsibility of sharing that. Like, I walked up and down today, I was like, there's a meeting at 6:30, make sure to attend, as well. And I think as a community person, you can talk to your neighbor and share that too. So, I think just helping get that aspect out, but I think we did a good job at getting the information out.
So can I ask, I'll just add, is there consensus for adding the science teacher? Because we haven't asked that. Do you want to ask?
Yeah.
consensus on
So
it?
is there consensus on adding the science teacher back? Yes.
Support that.
Yes. Thumbs up.
Grade 4 teacher.
And
Right,
and
I
a
was
grade.
gonna have her ask
How about a
you.
grade 4 teacher? Do you want to add a grade 4 teacher back in?
Is Jill?
Oh, Jill. Jill says no.
No.
Neither
High
one.
school, yes. 4th grade, no.
Okay. Give that text.
Does it go by majority?
So just to remind, because I know you brought up the ed techs, the last 3 positions eliminated were the special education teaching position, the grade 4 position, and the Oak Hill High School science position. The ed techs were part of the initial reductions. I'm just reminding
and-
folks what was last out.
And what was the ed techs in the previous, what building were they for?
So the ed techs, you had a special ed tech at Oak Hill Middle School, which still left 3 ed tech positions available. An open ELL, which is the English language learner ed tech position, which still left 1 ed tech position for that. So those were since the original proposed budget. Those were the ed tech positions.
So there's 2,
There were 2 in the original reduction.
and then 1 in the second reduction. So 3 total.
There were none in the second reduction.
So.
So we did discuss that. You're probably talking, because now you started the year, by the time you hire, you're probably halfway through the year. So you're probably around 50,000 for each of those positions. So if you did the science, and I know Jill's not supporting the 4th grade, but if you did both of those, about $100,000.
And the 4th grade class sizes went from how many to how many with the reduction?
Right. They went for, just to remind folks, they chose to keep the position in 3rd grade. So their numbers are lower in 3rd grade rather than putting the position in 4th grade where they would have been an average of 18. Instead, they lowered the 3rd grade numbers to, what are you at, Dustin, now? 14. And their 4th grade is at 20 to 21. So they chose where they put that position. But on average, it would be 18.
So I guess for me, this scientific method, if they're saying that it's not the money and it's about the administration, could we try proposing a budget where we put those back in and have the class sizes be smaller, the money go up, but then cut an administrative position as a compromise, and then put that to the taxpayers and see if they're going to vote on that. And then if they don't vote on that, now we can say for a fact that you told us it wasn't the money, and you told you wanted to cut administration. We did that. We've rolled out a budget before where we cut the teachers and we saved the administration, and you didn't like that. I feel like if anything is better than nothing is all I just, for that kind of thing, just to try to keep it going.
Yeah, we don't have consensus. Yeah. Do we have consensus for that? Who would want to vote for that?
Are you asking for consensus of eliminating the assistant superintendent position?
And putting the teachers back in? Is that what you're saying, Doug?
Something along that line. I don't know.
I've heard the teachers
are consensus.
Keeping the assistant superintendent or eliminating it is where you're at now, right?
To follow up, if it passes and we find that the school year is taxing, because you got taxpayers, the teachers, and the administration, each one has its own burden. We're definitely going to be putting more burden on the administration with that, adding more teachers and removing the administration. Is next budget meeting, we could put the administration back in if we found the burden was too much over the course of the year, following through with cutting. I'm just throwing this, if we're planning a strategy,
right.
Is that something that would be impossible?
You think you're going to have somebody apply for a job that you keep cutting?
No.
No.
It's true. It's
So
very
we
true.
do consensus.
And it's really hard to get a position back once it's cut. Because
Yeah.
people don't want their taxes to
Yeah, because once you cut the position, it's gone.
Yeah.
And we have to put it back in the budget next
Took us
year.
10 years to get art and music back at Sabatis.
Yeah, we went many years without that there.
There's no
There's
I don't
no,
have the answers. I just
there's
try
no
to
good
not-
answer.
No, there's no good answer.
No.
And anybody tells you it's not about the money, they're not telling you the truth.
Yeah.
It's about the money.
Okay.
Do you want to do that? Put the teachers, we're putting the teachers back in and leaving the administrator in as well.
I think you're asking a consensus to remove it, right?
To remove it?
To remove the assistant superintendent.
Do we have a consensus then to remove the assistant superintendent?
No.
Yes.
Jill says no. Yes?
No.
No. Yes.
Mine is yes, pending the details.
You can't do that.
And well, I mean, if it's like
Well, there
astronomically
isn't
crazy,
consensus.
there is some.
There isn't.
There isn't consensus.
But yes, I guess yes.
Christy?
I would be in favor of changing it to a curriculum coordinator, not to eliminate the
Yeah.
position.
You want to take consensus on that?
How about changing the position back to curriculum coordinator? Laura?
Oh, you're starting over here. Can you come back to me?
Okay.
Thank you.
Bob?
I could support that.
Robbie?
No.
I say yes. Doug?
It's hard. I don't have enough
The assistant
details. Yeah.
superintendent is already doing that. He's already doing that job.
Yeah. I guess it's again. I
And
just
other-
want to
many other
try
things.
a different strategy, and if it takes some shuffling, I mean, the taxpayers have expressed repeatedly they just want shuffling of any idea to try to alleviate some costs or tackle what they see as some sort of. Sometimes the only time that you can prove something to them or people is by actually doing what they want and seeing how it plays out. They may be right, and they may be like, well, administration was too top heavy, see, and it worked. Or they may be wrong, and administration wasn't, and we had a catastrophic failure. I guess I just support trying to accommodate to what they want and seeing how it plays out, and then dealing with the repercussions as they come. So that's my yes. I support cutting this. The
Christy?
Can we open it to public comment?
All right. we're going to stop our discussion and we'll open it up to public comment.
Jill's got her hand up.
Oh, Jill?
I'm not for changing her position. I want the position to stay as assistant superintendent.
Comments from the floor.
So you have beat this pretty much to death. I'm sorry, but you have, and you haven't come up with a decision. And part of the problem with what you're trying to convince people to do is that they're not getting the message. There's 2,935 registered voters in the town of Litchfield. 364 of them came and voted the last election. The last time this budget came around, 364 of them came out for 71% of their tax dollar. Okay? So, in my eyes, despite my personal feelings, which really, I don't care at this point, because the first budget that you guys came up with, as a whole, the one that you have now is $40,000 less than what we wanted you to have for a budget in the first place. Okay? So that being said, what you need to focus on is how are you going to get the other 1,500 voters to come out and vote on this, so you really got a clear picture of what the people, I don't know how many voters there are in Sabattis, but I know there's a bigger population than there is in Litchfield. And they had the same amount of voters come out that Litchfield did. So you're focusing in the wrong area, I think. I'm not sure, but I truly believe, and I don't know what the answer is. Otherwise than the first time around, we had a bigger vote turnout on the question at the ballot box because we put road signs out, and people saw them, and they went to vote. And this time around, we put signs out at the Sportsman's Club, and people said, oh, we didn't see the signs. We didn't know that there was going to be a vote. So they don't know. And the excuse is our life is so busy that we don't know. Well, you know, what's it going to take? You want to lose your house before you decide that you know or not? And I realize that this sounds like a soapbox speech, but it is really, because that's what you have to focus on, is how can you get the people and the parents to understand that possibly we have a good educational system, and you know you're doing the best you can under the circumstances. But I think that the message is not clear to people, and you're not forcing it down their throats so that they understand how important it is. Because this could go on forever. Mm-hmm. The statute says that as long as it's passed at your Oak Hill High School meeting, at some point the towns need to take that and set their tax rate. Whether the legislative body agrees with it or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The state doesn't care. So it's all, I don't feel that that's right or just or anything else, because I think it should be against the Constitution that the people, the legislative body, is not voting on what a small group of people is saying is okay. Sorry.
Can we go door to door in town to have them vote? Is that something? Can you get like a government official to go from house to house?
Katie did also go to Litchfield with Robbie and
I did too.
Diane, right?
Yeah.
And like, how many people showed up?
Well, and I mean,
6.
Gary was there too, and but the thing is, I didn't get the impression that anybody there was going to be spreading the message that more people need to show up to vote. It seemed like everybody was very concerned about the current status of the everything. Yeah.
Gareth?
Right now, at the last, can everybody hear me? At the last board meeting, the select board meeting, we talked about putting out a questionnaire. We need volunteers. It's going to be at Percy's. It's going to have questions on it about what's important to you about your children's education. It's also going to ask if we want to leave the RSU. It's also been asked that. But we still need volunteers. But there's 10 questions, I think, about what's important to you about your children's education. So it's going to happen. And that's our solution. Plus, we're also going to put out road signs, if I have mine, because that seems to be effective. But you've got to do something, and that's what you're arguing about is kind of immaterial. Because I don't think that it's not the right message.
I mean,
But it's what we're hearing in the community.
A few of the community.
a few,
Yes.
yeah. He's
May not be reality.
Correct.
Well, I mean, let's go all in the other way then. We'll put the science teacher back in the special ed and not cut the assistant superintendent. And at least to do something different, we'll get volunteers to go from door to door and tell them that there's a meeting that they have to go to. I don't know, because nobody's checking anything. I don't know, you know. I just want to do something different.
Most people don't understand what the Oak Hill High School meeting represents.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't get it at all.
They don't.
The only
They
effective
don't.
measure has ever been having contact.
That's right.
The only effective measure ever in any of the field work we have.
Nobody is going to come out to vote till they feel they're losing something.
That it's impacting them personally.
Whether an administrator to them isn't losing anything.
Right.
It's not losing anything to 90% of the people that are out there in the community. I know, because I've talked to them. Why don't you come out to vote? I got people in my own family that didn't vote. You know why? Didn't affect them. And they got kids at school.
It does.
But it
It
does.
does.
It does.
It does.
It does. Yeah.
And they have an opportunity at the budget meeting. That's a legislative body. The community votes there just to forward the budget to the referendum. They can decide we cannot leave that budget meeting without a budget. Whether it's high, low, whatever it is, we cannot leave that room without a budget that just gets presented because there's not even a number at the town, at the referendum. Do you support the budget that was voted at the budget meeting? So they have an opportunity. That is a legislative body. We just present a budget. They get to make it up, whatever.
So, on that note, that's absolutely true. They don't know that.
Yes.
They don't know that that's how it works.
I've been
That they
saying
would
that
go. Yeah.
since we started that process. And
So-
that was not before we had an RSU, which was 10 years ago.
Well, so I've worked these last 3
Yeah.
budget. I've worked all 3 of them. It's a very, very long day. It's expensive.
It is.
People don't realize how expensive it is to run an election. We try and run it as slim as we can, but guess who's paying for it? You know, people just aren't thinking logically.
Nope.
And so they show up and they're, I'm a no. And okay, well, did you go to the meeting?
Nope.
Well, doesn't make a difference anyways. They think that you guys have all the control,
Yeah.
and then they go and vote to say, no, you don't. So that's the problem. That's where the breakdown is.
I've voted
And
at the
I've
budget
watched it
meeting.
happen over and
Our
over.
vote collectively is 1 vote per person, just like everybody else.
So we should have spent the last 45 minutes figuring out how to get more voters to the polls.
I've been
Is-
trying to do it for 20 years.
Well, then what? Can we spend the next 10 minutes instead of just
Yes.
go on to that and so we have some closure? Like, what would we do then
What do
to
we
get
do?
them in
Yeah.
the polls? I totally support it. Just
Yeah, public comment.
okay. Yeah. Sorry.
People legit commit to register their vehicle and say they're voting for the school budget down the hall 40 feet and they refuse to go down. So, I mean, complacency is
Yeah, we're seeing that's probably the biggest thing that we're seeing on voting day, and it's true what Gary said. Like, we put out signs. I can't tell you how many people came this last time. Oh, I didn't know we were voting today. What's going on? It's one question. It's the same question. It's the 3rd time. Oh, okay. And they don't even look at the numbers because we're required to post them in there. And they're like, but what was it before? And so they're trying to compare what the number was before, and we don't post that. We can only post what
the number is now. And so people are uneducated. They don't know how the process works. So I don't know how to fix that, but that's the reason why I came here tonight, to let you all know, and also about the absentee vote. We have to change that date. So, but yeah, and also just to let you know, like in the June election, I don't know how many people know, the selectmen, it was won by one vote. And so we had to go back and do a recount and verify the election and all of that, and it worked. You know, it counted out exactly the way that we found out on election night. So your vote does matter. That was the perfect example that it does matter. It's just a matter of getting people educated.
Anybody else?
Well, this is exhausting, right? We're all exhausted. You're exhausted. So much was said, and I have probably another hour's worth to talk about. But nobody knows about the public vote. They don't know what the point is. They don't know what to do when they get there. They don't know. So I agree with Libby that they're uneducated, but I also agree that they're misinformed, but not from the negative aspect of the word. I hate that word. I don't like using it. I think they're uninformed, rather. I disagree. I don't think that there was enough notice or anything out there. I didn't get the third mailing. I don't know why my mailman didn't deliver it. He doesn't like to deliver my packages either. But he didn't. Because you know why? They're having shortages too. That is what is at stake here. Everybody is having shortages. Whether it's with the bus drivers, and then we have to find rides, and then we have to take care of our children when there's no daycare because our daycare needs time off too, and then we have to spend our gas money, and then we're getting strapped there, and then we have to take time off from work. I'm not even impacted by that, but I'm here to speak for the people who I've been talking to, because they are scared to come here. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to say it. They don't know that you're just one of us, right? But when you go to the public vote, and there are some individuals who did put forth a number, and then it was, well, we're going to go back to the old number. Who's in favor? We felt like, why are we even here? What's the point? And if you want me to come up with a number, can I have the actuals, please, on what we spent? Because I have a 77-page budget line item. I look at spreadsheets all day. I read law all day. I cannot look at that. And it's not even in digital. It looks like it's a scanned PDF. So it's hard to look at that. We don't know what we're looking at because you're not giving us what we're supposed to be using to make these decisions. And I think it is about the money from the sense that of how it's being spent. I mean, I was the one who said I would pay $2,000 more to get buses on the road. I don't care. If my child is going to school, because let me tell you, I am not having my children home with me. I do not want them home with me, and instead of, if they can't get the bus, they're going to be mad. They love school. They love it. And do we have a good education system, or do we have good people? We have phenomenal people in this district. And those are the people we want to keep. But we also want to make sure that they're truly happy. So where are the staff surveys? I think all of this needs to happen. Is it going to happen within the next 2 weeks? Probably not. I agree with everybody. We need to come back together and really work towards the next budget. And maybe that's where we can really hone in and put forth those details that they really want to see, but they want to stop spending the money frivolously. Does it make sense to have an assistant superintendent when it could be a director of curriculum? I'm glad you brought up the Maine School Board Association. I believe that's what it's called.
School Management.
Management Association. Thank you for the correction. Because I did look up those salaries, and the administrators are not there. The ed techs are. The bus drivers are. They're low. If people actually go look at that, they're based on actual contracts. I think it was of March of this year. They're low. Why are we putting out that our bus drivers are at $21 or $23 an hour if they're not getting $21 an hour?
Yeah.
They are now. Okay, so
They
that's...
were since the last contract.
Was that prior to the contract sent that they got? Okay. But that's the misinformation that we're not getting. We're not getting that information. We just need more clear. It's truly not transparent when the RSU4 page, who has 2,000 followers, doesn't even put anything on there about the budget this time around. Why not? It's just so many things. It's just compiling. That's all it is. I think people are just decision fatigued. I mean, we're trying to decide, do I bring my kid to school? Do I go to work late? Do I get in trouble from my boss again because I have to go out early, or I have to call in late, or it's just decision fatigue, and they have personal lives, and they're trying to get their kids to dance and football and everywhere else because we want to do those things. And I think that's just all it is. There's a lot to consider, but I also think that there is some negativity coming at us. So, I mean, I could repeat some of the phrases I wrote down just here tonight. It feels negative and it feels tense, like we're at fault. I don't think that it's fair that you guys have to make these decisions for us, but I've also heard we elect you to make those decisions. So you can't have it both ways. We either elect you to make those decisions, or you want us to give you those ideas. And you have to accept them, consider them, make us feel like we're being heard by giving us the actual facts. Not just saying we have an impact. Quantify it. Justify it. Yes.
We spent 40 minutes tonight arguing about cutting an assistant superintendent position purely based on, not on any of our belief that that's the best for the school system in and of itself, but because of voters voicing that opinion. I feel like we can't do any more with that.
You can.
To try
justify why that job is needed.
And
right?
I totally support
justify
that.
what that job does. I'm not going to use the word she or her because I've heard, you refer to the position, not the person, right? This is not personal. Yeah. What does that position do? We all pick up slack in our jobs. My director is gone. My VP is gone. It's me and my executive. I have a team of 6. We're all picking up slack. It happens. But what is the true impact? You can't just say there's impact. We need to see the impact. What is that? What does that look like? And I know you were trying to get there with, your recommendation, Doug, for let's just get it through and then we'll come back again next year. Is that the right thing? I don't know. I don't know what the right thing is either. I'm getting told just as much as you guys, the same things. But I think it's just everything is compiling. Christy said the perfect storm. That was in my head earlier before I got to the meeting. It is just the perfect storm. We are tired and we're just trying to survive. But thank you. Sorry. I know we want to go home.
Bob, so we're back to the board wrap up?
Yes,
Okay.
let's do a wrap up.
Yeah, you have to vote to go beyond 9.
All right, we have to.
Well, we're
And
not
make
starting a new business.
We
So
have-
once we finish this, then we'd have to vote to extend. So if you're in the middle one, you keep on going.
Keep on going.
Wow, no, not in the middle. Anyway,
Sharon's been at every meeting. She knows.
so we're right. We're not getting people at the meetings. When we formed the RSU in Wales, we had 7 or 8 people show up at the meeting. Litchfield, I think we had 3 plus board members. Sabatis, we had like 5 people didn't come out. These budget meetings, I've seen budget meetings where 25 people come in and approve $20 million. It's hitting their tax bill. You would think they would be more interested. I mean, I am. The largest outpouring I've ever experienced, and I'm from away, so I retired here in '94. I think it was maybe '95 at the Oak Hill budget meeting. They were going to cut wrestling. The place was packed. And Sharon's right, and that's why Gorham, who was in this same situation, cut athletics because it brought people to the polls. That's not the right way to do it. We're trying to get it to happen on the same date that a statewide ballot is being taken, and that's the crunch, so that we will have more people come. Whether they're informed or not, they're going to be able to tick the box, right? And hopefully those numbers will be greater than they were. So, it's getting the message out. I had my blood drawn by a tech yesterday before my treatment, who's a resident in one of our towns, graduated from this school here, didn't know anything about the budget meetings or the school budget. And I said, well, obviously you don't, because you'd probably recognize who I was if you were involved in the budget process or the school system. And she said, oh, she could care less about it, you know? And she's, I believe, a homeowner in one of our towns, a young person, probably doesn't have children yet, but will, I would imagine. So I don't know what it is to get them out. We can put signs up. How do you get them to the budget meeting? It is a challenge, and it's been a challenge for every time we've had a budget meeting. How many people turned up at the public meetings about the new school edition that we wanted to put on? You can count them on one hand, right? And that was $30 million. But look at everything that was online about it and how many people showed up to vote. But nobody came out to get the brief and hear the information. I don't know what it is. I don't know why the people who don't vote or don't are they satisfied with the way it's going? And so they figure they don't have a beef? I don't know. We don't know because we don't get that input. Like you say, you know, what do we do to turn them out? That's the problem. So you give them a budget. We recommend the budget, and you hope the people that turn up are informed enough and are making good decisions. And that is our job. That's not giving our job away. We're elected to make those decisions. We're elected to recommend the budget, and that's what we got to do.
Okay, let's just kind of wrap this up here.
Did we
Robbie?
finally get a consensus?
We don't have a consensus.
The only consensus I saw, or
Is on the
correct me,
positions.
is on the two positions.
Laura?
Thank you. So would we be able to have voting at any of the buildings, or does it have to be at the town office? Okay.
There's a whole long state election.
Because I was wondering if we could add some.
The budget meeting.
And then could we add maybe to the adult ed program a informational what to do at these meetings?
Yeah.
Civics, added civics.
Mhm.
That would help.
But for public information, we could add maybe like Representative Greenwood or somebody. I don't know. Just trying to think of some. So we don't run into this problem again and investing in education in our towns. I feel like a lot of people, if they look at it as they're investing in, and these are goals and plans long term, you're going to get a lot more support of it. And then, I don't know how I'm going to say it. If we did like a coupon for kids that they got at school, and if they go to the polling place with their parents, they get a I vote sticker.
Candy.
Can we bribe them? I can't. Do you know what I mean?
Let's
though,
host
like
a trunk at Trunk or Treat.
You're talking 700 kids.
You can't reward people for voting.
they can get a sticker.
Can I?
Oh, rewarding the kids
Right.
for dragging mom and dad to the polling place.
Yeah.
That.
But then too, you're kind of promoting and building that relationship for them to do it when they get older, right? And I was thinking of the voting thing. I was thinking maybe the high school level, like kids that are of age of 18 that could vote. It would give them an opportunity to not.
We could put that as an agenda item for next time.
Every graduation, we should be telling the graduating class, if you're 18, go and vote next week at the
Can we?
Yeah.
Can we maybe have some of that coming in as a opportunity? And then could we also maybe every new person that submits a building permit through the towns, they get a handout that says
that would be good.
In Wales, in Litchfield.
It's taped up.
Well, how are you helping us?
I'm telling you, Laura, we
I'm picking on you.
do that, and I still can't get them to walk 40 feet down the hall.
I guess
feel
I'm
like
done, Doug.
Concrete. Can we have a facilities and finance committee? Can we have the school have a third committee about voter turnout or something? Or you know, where the committee, its job is just to, you know, they have people from the public, just like all the other committees that we have, and then the public, and then a couple of the school board members. That's literally all they do twice a month is talk about how to increase voter turnout. Is that more of like a
And if we
concrete-
print out something, like we could stand, I would volunteer to stand at the bus line and pass it out, the drop off line and things to send right to people in their cars. You know what I mean? Like I could do that too.
Yeah. I mean, just to constantly brainstorm, like twice a month, where you brainstorm ideas and recruit volunteers.
Okay, we're talking about voting here,
Point of order.
but we need to come back to what we need Katie to do. What do we want her to do for next week? We still haven't come to a consensus.
I still think that looking into the facts and figures to research what it would look like to remove the assistant superintendent position is still something that I'm hearing still wants to be seen and heard.
Do you want to know what the impact of that will be as well?
I think the impact, and I think the figures on each of the duties and how it could be a path to be followed. But do I think that that's something we should do right now? Is no, So if that consensus, I don't.
There's a real problem with coming up with the dollar amount, because if we have to go out and negotiate impact, do you want to give a dollar amount before you go into negotiations?
I'm trying to hit all the bases
I know
that were
what you're
talked
trying-
about.
I know, and I-
They were talked about cutting administration,
Why don't we
money,
just see if we
and
can
then
find- if
voter
they think
turnout.
They can find people to take those duties.
Yeah. I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to be proactive about the checklist that's come up.
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
it looks like our only consensus would be to add teachers at this point.
Yes. So I will come back with those two items.
Okay. You. All right, let's move on to.
You have to
I
go.
move.
Oh.
I move that we.
Yep.
I move that we extend our meeting
Passed.
past 9 o'clock in order to complete the business that's on the agenda.
Any discussion? Everyone in favor? Roll call. Yeah. Laura, yes. Bob?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
I'm yes. Brandon?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Christy?
Yep.
Jill? All right, so we'll move on. To new business, 7.1, to approve that the computation and declaration of votes dated and attached here to be, and it is hereby approved, and further that the computation and declaration of votes be entered upon the records of Regional School Unit Number 4, and further that a certified copy of the computation and declaration of votes be sent to each of the municipal clerks with the regional school unit.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Laura?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Jill?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Passes. We'll go to committee reports. Finance and Facilities Committee.
Finance and Facilities Committee met tonight at 5:30, and it's going to be a short report. We had an update on the audit field work. We had an update on the Appian solar credits, and we're going to be getting about 10%, right, Sam? Back from our credits. Feasibility study update. Katie has talked to a couple contractors, and that's gone out. Am I right?
Yes.
SRRF loan applications. She's talking to the contractor about that to get those together for the end of October.
Right.
New business, September monthly financials. We're looking good. We're within the boundaries where we should be. We've had some holds on things that we don't want to spend right now, but Katie's working through that with Sam and everybody else. The insurance repair at the high school, we're waiting for actually just the cabinet millwork to get put in, and that's done. We talked about busing, and you've heard about that. So I'm not going to go into that again. And that was it.
Thank you. Personnel and Policy Committee?
Yes, we met tonight, just as it's late, sorry. We reviewed 7 policies that will be coming to the board for a first reading. I will go over those. The first policy we looked at was policy JFAA, which is the policy around admission of resident students. The policy that we have is old and didn't have an adopted date, and it only references the high school. So this new iteration will be based on the MMSA policy as its current practice. The second policy is policy JFAB, the admission of non-resident students. Again, we updated this, and you will see an updated policy around that. Third is policy EGAD, copyright compliance, which is one of our employee required policies to be read annually. We are updating it to read full RSU4 because currently it only says Oak Hill High School. And we're recommending just updating the language of the current policy that is on the books currently. The next is policy EGAD-R, which is copyright compliance administrative procedures. Again, this is a policy that is an employee required policy to be read annually, and it is an update of changing Oak Hill High School to read as the full RSU4. The next one is policy IJNDB, which is student computer and internet use and internet safety. The current policy that we have doesn't account the different types of devices and locations of where students can access networks, and it does not include anything around internet safety. So you'll see those updates in that policy. The next is policy JICH, which is drug and alcohol use by students. Again, this is an employee required policy to be read annually. Like the other ones, it was only read with Oak Hill High School, not the full RSU4. So we're recommending that we just update the language of our current policies and add the specific line around bath salts. And finally, it is policy JICIA, which is weapons, violence, and school safety policy. Our current policy has not been updated since 2011. So we are basing our update on the MMSA updated policy of 2022. And we were going to present you with some options with that one. So those will all be included in the packet for the first read at our next full board meeting.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So a couple of years ago, we paid Maine School Board Association to review all of our policies, make recommendations. Is that what's guiding our work here? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, the next October 25th will be CAI and Technology Committee, and we'll move on to board member comments. Robbie?
Yeah, Doug's right. We had at least 45-minute conversation. We got nothing done. We added 2 positions back in the budget. That's going to cost $100,000, and if the same people come out and vote, it's going to fail again. So we're tasked with making the decisions of what is good for the school, what is good for the taxpayers, and I don't think we did that tonight. I think we just punted the football down the field, hoping somebody's going to fumble it and we can pick it up down there. So consequently, you either got to stand up for what you think you believe in, or you got to stand up for cuts. And I don't think we did that tonight, not as a majority. So consequently, next meeting, I think we should move the meeting up to Monday, and we should get it done as soon as we can, so we can get the decision made, so we can get the ballots out as soon as we can, so people can early vote, because I think a lot of people like early voting, and if they don't early vote, they're not going to vote. That's all I got.
Any other comments?
I do if nobody else does.
Oh, wait.
You can have mine.
I don't think you want that.
I'll defer.
Make comments.
I just really, none of this is pleasant, and I just really feel like, from my own I'm just trying to get something to happen. So I just want everybody that, I know we're talking about these jobs like, cut this, do that. All of this is purely just in an effort to try to get something to happen, because I understand where all these parts, I just don't want the exact same thing to happen that's happened the past couple of times. So that's what's guiding anything and everything I said tonight. I just feel like I need to say that because I'm trying to show that I'm listening to what people are saying, but I'm also trying to be responsible to the students and the parents. You know, I have 4 children in this educational system. So I definitely have a vested interest at dealing with anything. Cuts, if the educational system gets impacted, that's my children's livelihood. So it's a big deal. You know, I take this very seriously, and I guess I'm kind of disappointed that I feel like we just kind of ran around in circles. I wish we had more of a thing. So maybe something will come up, that a battle plan for the next time, and I'm all for meeting Monday. That kind of thing.
Laura? Just to thank people for everyone for coming and the repetitiveness of some of the same people meetings after meetings, and just understood that you are heard. I agree, Doug, it's not an easy conversation. It's where we're at. It's where some people are at with their home budgets and their food on their tables, and shuffling kids around and trying to get things where they should go. So unfortunately for some of us, this is the only hour that we have to talk about it, because we're busy elsewhere, and maybe we don't have time to always come to the superintendent office and meet and talk about things or send emails and try to communicate that way, because some of us are just trying to survive where we're at. So knowing that it's important to talk amongst each other here, and that's what that time is for, right? So with that, I think adding the teachers back will be a really positive thing for a lot of the people in the community. It was something that I heard over and over, is that the one thing that was at the top of the sticky notes on the wall was the small classroom sizes, and I think there's been a lot of work done over the years to get to that point. I do think that we have some resources within our district that would take on some of these challenges if there were items that were reallocated or moved. We have some fantastic staff that has a lot of education behind them, and a lot of years of experience that I think could contribute quite a bit if they were able to do so. So thank you. Anybody else? Jill? Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm all set.
Okay. We'll move on to 10, executive session. To enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D, Regional School Units United for Education Association Support Staff Contract.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All right.
9:20.
Laura?
Yeah.
Bob?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Christie? Yes. All right. We'll go into executive session at
9:24.
9:24. 34. Okay, we're going to 11, other business. To approve the memorandum of understanding, MOU, between the board of directors and the support staff contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is there going to be any discussion about it so the public will know what?
Yeah, we have to say what it is.
You
right?
can.
You want us to? Can we
Yeah.
say what it is?
Yeah, you can announce that because they're everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
So to be clear, this agenda item is to increase the starting salary for RSU4 bus drivers to $23 and to increase the top salary for RSU4 bus drivers to $25. And that will impact drivers that are currently driving for the district and also for all of you watching, new drivers that want to come drive bus for us, especially for the pre-K route.
And we will publish this tomorrow, and we'll work on the signing. Yeah.
So we got to vote.
And a vote. Laura?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Jill?
Heck yes.
Awesome. That passes. All right, future meetings.
So what do you want, Monday? Instead of the 18th, the 16th?
What are you going to gain?
2 days.
Nothing. 2 days.
Two
does
days
it-
to what? Because
The
it's really
absentee ballot.
when we're going to have the budget meeting that would make a difference on mailing
Right.
of absentee ballots.
You have to have the budget meeting on the 24th as opposed to the 26th.
How many days does it have to be?
7 days.
7 days.
So
Can't get it to them earlier than that. Right.
The big budget.
But they're not going to mail them out or give them out until the day after the budget meeting.
Right.
Can we
Because they
move-
can't afford people sending them in early and then throwing them away. That's not good for public relations.
Do we have to mail it? Can we have somebody drop it off? To
Yeah, they can
verbally
drop it.
Tell people,
Yeah,
like to each
course.
house and
Yeah,
to
we
tell
have an
them.
outside
Oh,
ballot
I
box
mean-
or at the town office.
You can't drop off the
can't
absentee at a house.
No, you can't do that.
No,
I'm just
no.
trying to increase voter awareness.
What I heard
don't know.
is
you want
if
a
they at
pile
least
up?
got 2 more days, they would be happy. The problem is I got a call from the town manager today from Litchfield, Kelly, and I said, so what are you looking for? I guess what are you asking me? Well, can you move it up? I said, well, we have a 7-day posting, which is the issue, really. It's a 7-day posting. But I sensed that if you backed it to Monday to have your public budget meeting on the 24th, the Tuesday, rather than the Thursday, they would be happier with that than waiting till
Well,
Thursday.
we can have the same meeting date and just have the budget meeting on Tuesday.
No, you have to post 7 days.
So
Oh,
couldn't we
that's
have it on the
right,
23rd?
What?
If we have our meeting on the 16th, 7 days is the 23rd, right?
I put that.
So
We'd
we-
have to go October 16th
And then October 23rd,
and then October 24th.
23rd. Can it Monday?
No,
Monday?
it
Oh, you-
can't be. You
It
have to
has to
go
be
7
posted.
days. Because we talked to Sharon, can we have the meeting on the 7th day? And she said, no, you have to post for 7 days.
So if you move the date we have here back to, then the other date should be back to.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which would mean the 16th and the 23rd.
Right.
No,
Well,
23rd.
but I'm saying,
I know.
22nd.
the 24th.
24th, I'm sorry.
so this said 25th.
No, 25th is a regular board meeting. Ignore, you have that meeting.
So
No, public meeting
16,
was
It's the
26th.
26th and the
7
18th.
days
Okay.
is the 24th.
Yeah.
Because 7 physical, 24-hour blocks. It has to
Right.
be posted.
You
Can't
feel good
start.
about if we backed up 2 days? Well, that's all we can do.
Unless we have a meeting.
Not if we want to vote November 7th.
I mean, right, meet tomorrow
We
night,
meet tomorrow night.
but I
She
can't.
won't have the information we asked her to get.
Yeah.
If come up with a budget.
Isn't it 7 days, the 18th?
We have to have two meetings. We have to have our meeting.
They have to vote for the budget.
Can I ask, what are we going to actually accomplish next meeting? Just
You have to
We're
vote
gonna
on the
have to-
budget.
We're going to have to
You have to
recommend
sign
the
all
budget.
those
we have to
papers.
recommend a budget.
Sign the name.
Is even without that information, I mean, in the for time, we're showing that we're looking into that, right? That's the whole point, the assistant superintendent thing.
But I don't think there was a census.
I'm not bringing
We're-
that.
So you're not even bringing that. So what
No.
are we looking into? The
Adding.
teacher additions, right?
Yeah.
Bringing back teachers.
That's just
Oh, I mean, can we just vote that now? Throw the teachers on the thing, and then we finished it today, and then
can't
we
vote
can.
it today.
We can't vote it today, but
can't.
we could vote tomorrow.
And it's difficult to call a meeting for tomorrow. Statute, you know, it has to be emergency situations, and our convenience at doing a meeting might not satisfy the emergency.
Well, I think it's an emergency in terms of absentee ballots.
Right.
And like
Well,
je-
that's only if we
jeopard-
went to 7.
jeopardizing the impact of having this a vote on a general election is going to have more turnout. Like there's no way that it won't, because there's big questions on the ballot. And I think it's going to be a missed opportunity if we miss that. That being said, there's no numbers to the absentee. To the ballot. It's just a yes or a no.
They would get their absentee ballots in time to, what they're saying is, they have
They've
to
already
get
gotten requests.
correct.
Yes.
We've already sent out statements.
Yes. Right.
We have to keep them completely separate.
Okay.
Regardless of if we have them now or if we have them a week ago,
You'd
by
still.
statute, we cannot accept a school ballot until the day after the budget.
Correct. Okay.
I second. We have our meeting tomorrow and give some sort of verdict, and just to have the.
Yeah, time out.
We have to have the warrant, don't we? Have to have the warrant counted?
It doesn't preclude us from sending them out, but if they send them back before the day after the meeting, they have to be rejected. So it won't have.
Yeah. No, I think that a little handout, you know.
Anybody who comes in the office to vote in person will not be able to.
And there's a lot of people who come.
And I just worry that then it will be an added level of like,
Look what they're doing. They don't want
right,
us to vote.
right.
I know that's not true, but like that's perception. Right. Right. Right.
I feel like having an emergency meeting tomorrow
I
is
agree.
showing that this is important enough that we want to try to get it passed to give taxpayers enough time to have their ballots.
Right, that's what I'm not understanding. You have a whole week and a half.
There's a whole process. They have to request them or come in and ask for an application. No, this is a separate vote, so we would have to let them know, hey, there's another referendum, there's another ballot.
And they'll say that
And
doesn't matter.
you want an absentee for that one as well. And then we have to send them to them and hopefully they get it back.
Do they actually have to request a separate request for the school budget?
Yes.
Even if it's on the same day?
Only because your timeline is different.
But we're going to vote. We're going to vote on the same day.
Understood, Bob.
Okay, I'm trying to get it clear.
But
But military, I got one thing and I got
So-
everything.
Yes, understood, but if we take the absentee ballot application at the state meeting, and for all the people, we send them a ballot, if we get it back, it has to be rejected, we cannot send it back. I put instructions in my absentee ballot, RSU4 ballot, only available until June 7th. If you want one, that's the instruction. They have to follow the plan.
So
If it was all the same timeline, you could use all the same papers, you could use the same envelope and everything. But because the timeline is separate, we have to keep the whole thing.
that being said, I guess what I'm picking up is it's nothing but helpful if we get this done tomorrow as opposed to if we get it done on the 16th.
I mean, as far as prepping the ballots, we can get the ballots.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I understand the hurdle, but there's still nothing but helpful. If we can have some sort of budget presented tomorrow, that helps way more than any other day other than tomorrow.
Well, they have to have the public budget
Right.
meeting.
We do, but that we can move it up, right?
Okay, you're
Yeah.
not getting a lot of time for communication, but okay.
I guess I'm trying to, like, if
Can we meet not at 6:30? I mean, I'm sorry, but people have schedules as well. Can you meet earlier? Like at
anytime.
people meet at 6?
Oh,
tomorrow?
6, sure. Yeah, I think so. We have field hockey, not in Booth Bay, so.
Yeah, we can meet at 4.
So if you guys, you have a meeting tomorrow night and you come to.
They can't next Friday. So now we're meeting on a Friday for the public budget meeting.
Oh, that'll work. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or do you want to put it on, you would have to do Monday.
It would be Thursday, right?
No, you have 7 days posting.
12. So that's 8,
So now
20th.
you're at the public meeting would actually be, well, no, it would be Monday the 23rd. We're back to 1 day difference now. You're not going to have a public meeting on Friday.
So it's a 3-day difference, though, technically, because originally it was the 26th.
Right,
The
and we were
23rd is
and we
still a
were trying to
3-day
go to the
savings.
22nd. Now you're pushing it. 24th. Now you want the 23rd.
Is there a home football game on the 21st?
So really, now you're really not changing the timeline by voting on Monday or voting tomorrow night. I mean, we have a lot of paperwork that has to be done for this. This isn't do this with a blink of an eye here. Right. I mean, she has to prepare all the warrants. This isn't
It's a lot, I know.
done in 4 hours, folks.
So
right.
I guess the only snag is that you won't be able to put our ballot out with all the other ballots, right?
That's too late anyway. They've already gone
They're
out.
already doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
The absentee ballots
So,
came out the day that we had our.
I'm
referendum.
focused on our agenda. With if we were going to our next meeting, what is actually going to be accomplished?
You have to sign all those papers.
Is that it? We just have to sign
Well,
all
it's
the
not
papers.
all signed. They
after-
have to be
A number.
prepped. Everything has to be prepped.
Okay.
They want the ballots ASAP, so we have to start printing them.
Yeah.
And they've asked for like 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay? And they have to be bundled. That takes
Michelle's already working
all those people that we don't think are important sorry, I have to be
No,
snotty
yeah,
there.
that's fine.
Have work that has to get done.
Yeah.
Right? So we had planned the next meeting for Wednesday. We're trying to be flexible to go to Monday. To push us tomorrow night is putting a lot of pressure on the office to get that all done. Would we do it? Would we have to do it? Yes. If you tell us we will do it. To gain 1 day. I don't know if pushing it to gain 1 day is worth it rather than waiting for Monday night.
I guess for me is that to gain the 1 day would be worth it if nothing is going to change in our vote from tomorrow or Monday.
Okay. So if you're saying you got to push to get the ballots out, then that's what we do.
Is that
Well,
what-
we can, getting the ballots out is not the issue. Because the ballots don't have, we could mail those out last month.
Not necessarily true, because when we send out the absentee ballots, we should be sending out the notice of amount adopted with them. Just like with the state bond,
Right.
you have to send the treasurer's statement.
Right.
If you release the ballot off, that notice of amount adopted is supposed to be on that paper. You won't have that in the booth. You won't have that.
Right.
the day after
So you
the-
can't send it out until the day after the budget meeting.
Right.
So they can't mail them out till the day after the budget meeting.
Right.
So
So it's
the
whether
key
the
is when are you going to have the budget meeting? Are we going to stick with the date that we have? You're going to try and move that up, in which case then you have to move up our approval. And
Right. That's what we're talking about.
and I don't know that there's any other day of the week or night of the week that you're going to get a greater attendance than what we have scheduled.
I've already reserved the moderator.
The day of the 26th
26th.
26th. Great.
So we're not doing the 24th, we're doing the 25th.
Well, no, we're talking.
That's the current scheduled date, is the
The
26th.
current scheduled date is the 26th.
And that would not be enough time for our voters in all three towns to really get the notification.
So they're hoping we would go to Monday.
So if we're doing
Monday the 23rd, which would mean you have to vote on either tomorrow night or Monday night.
my vote's for Monday.
I can do Monday.
I can't do Monday, but I don't have to be here. My schedule, almost every
So we
night
have
of
to
the week
have at
is
least
scheduled
5
or
of you
something.
Monday. You have to have 5.
Laura, can you come Monday?
I can. Why can't we do the 20th for the public budget meeting? So if we vote tomorrow,
If we did
Have to
tomorrow,
vote
we could.
Friday night or wait till Monday night.
So.
well, tomorrow's
there's another
Thursday,
one
right?
who's having
Right.
a budget meeting on Friday. The statute says you have to deliver us the ballot
The day after.
the
Correct.
next day.
Right.
We're not in the office.
I'm not in the office on Friday. We're closed on Friday.
We're handing that, we were going to hand them to you that night. No. So
I
what
learned
I'm
long ago
hearing
not to
is
question it.
there's enough quorum for Monday night. That would give us the public hearing on the following Monday. Right?
The 24th Tuesday, you said.
The
24th.
is the 7th day.
Right. So we have to do the Tuesday, 24th. You've gained 2 days.
From the sound of it, anything helps.
Yeah.
As opposed to nothing.
Right.
Is that going to work, Sharon?
Or we come in tomorrow at 6 and try to be ready. And then you would have the public meeting on that Monday. You gain another day.
No, a public meeting can't be on a Monday.
Can't be on a Monday.
Well, if we, okay, if we do it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow.
We have enough for 6 o'clock tomorrow.
I'll be here.
It
That's
should
it.
take 5 minutes.
I can be here.
Yes, I can be here.
You can't?
I can. Monday
So
I
we've
can't.
got enough votes, so we'll just have to push tomorrow. Because you don't need the ballots tomorrow.
What
time?
As long as you're willing,
I will not make it tomorrow.
but we have 5. So, but you don't need the ballots until we're going to work on them. Right. The budget meeting, so we just need to get the warrants ready tomorrow.
What time do you want to see?
6. I mean, I'd love you to be earlier, but.
I can be earlier.
I can be
I
earlier.
can be earlier too.
Oh,
I can be earlier.
Oh, see? There you go.
oh my gosh, this is working out now. 5.
The game gets done at probably 5.
Pretty much give me a time.
What
be
time?
here.
5:30?
After 5.
If it's that desperate, I can be here tomorrow at 6 in the morning.
Whatever you want us to do.
Yeah.
You're spending the night, Doug? Jeez.
You want to go
hopefully-
5:30?
5:30.
5:30 tomorrow.
5:30.
We'll get out the agenda first thing in the morning.
I love it. I'm up.
So we're meeting tomorrow.
5:30 emergency. I'll have to call it emergency.
Team photos.
5:30 p.m.
5:30 p.m.
5:30
So,
p.m.
so put a heading emergency meeting.
What does that make our public budget meeting at the high
The
school?
Monday,
The Monday, the 23rd.
Monday the 23rd.
Monday, the 23rd is the budget. We got to
don't
see if
want
we can get a
any
moderator.
So I'm sorry, can you just tell me again why it can't be the 20th? Because if it's the 12th, if you vote on
It
the
can.
12th, 13,
Can
14.
be.
Oh,
Nobody wanted to do Friday.
okay.
No, because Saturday we can't.
But
We receive it
you were
Friday night.
you were getting on Friday
We've
night.
never done a Friday. Maybe more people would come. I don't know. True.
No.
People don't have to get up and go to work. There's.
All right. We're going to stay with
You
Monday.
notice most of them probably don't go to work the next.
What I'm hearing is if we're going to Monday,
Like
that
my age.
we're doing a lot to help.
We're trying.
We're trying.
If anything, yes, if anything comes up between,
Can you let Sabatis know they're not here?
Possibly be on the plate.
20?
Doing the budget meeting and things.
Okay, but what's the difference if you're sending them out on Monday or sending them out on Tuesday? I mean, when you think about it, you're not going to send out things on Saturday. You're not going to send out things on Sunday. I mean,
The biggest thing we need to do tomorrow.
you're just voting,
Voting and signing.
voting and signing,
Voting and signing.
voting and signing.
So really,
We're adding 2 positions back in the budget.
We're adding 2 positions back in. You're going to see that in your warrants. You're going to sign all those warrants. Then we're going to give them all that information to post it. Right? And they're going to they're not open on Friday, but they're going to have to post it Friday to get the 7 days. So somebody's got to come in to post.
No, we have to post by October 31st. You guys have to post by October.
But I got to don't we have to post in your areas?
That's what Michelle does.
But you're not open. How's she going to give them to you to post? Okay, she'll tape it to your front door. You're open. Litchfield will tape it to your window.
Yeah, they're open in the
Okay,
morning.
we'll do our best to get it out.
can we also come up with 3 strategies to increase voter turnout next meeting?
Not tomorrow.
True, it could be at the
But on the 25th you can.
I feel like
Yes.
Anybody?
Yes.
10 o'clock at night.
Jill?
Can we give Zoom option for tomorrow night, please?
Oh yeah.
Yes. As long as we have enough signatures.
We have to have
We
signatures.
We have the quorum.
Yes.
Well, I can come in and sign on Friday morning.
Perfect.
Now, if you want to give
Not-
them. You don't need your signature if they've got enough.
We
We've got a
don't
quorum.
need your signature.
But you can come Zoom.
Because
You can come on
Scott
Zoom.
won't be able to won't be here either, unless he's back.
Not ski season.
You only need a quorum.
Only need 5.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Not
Not
me.
you.
No,
We have
I
6.
got a meeting.
The game, a field hockey game, ends around 5-ish, so I can scoot over from
You're
there.
you're scooting more.
Okay.
Just don't.
Just
don't
be
get
on your
pulled
phone.
over.
I don't have to worry about that.
I'll show you a shortcut.
Yeah, I got,
All right. Do you
I
want
got-
So tomorrow at 5:30.
Yes.
Yes.
I get called from
Okay.
coaching a baseball
Okay.
game time to come to a meeting because we didn't have a quorum.
You want to make a motion?
We
All
have
right.
to have meeting motion.
Without objection, the school board chair or co-chair declares the meeting adjourned at
9:56.
9:56.